We are no fools on the hill. My people are no fools on the hill. You must let my people go, so we can rule from Cape to Cairo. You must free my people's hands, so we can rule our purpose land. I wanna know who owns the land. Who wanna know who owns the land? Okay, now listen carefully. Chinese are ruling the Chinese land. Japan is ruled by Japanese. England is governed by Englishmen. America is governed by Americans. So, Africa must be ruled by Africans. I wanna know who owns the land. We must rule from Cape to Cairo. We must rule our purpose land. I said, we wanna know who owns the land. I wanna know who owns the land. Hustler. Hey, Purpose land. Purpose land. Purpose land. It must be free. Angola want to know who owns the land. Mozambique want to know who owns the land. Namibia want to know who owns the land. I say, Soweto want to know who owns the land. Zimbabwe want to know who owns the land. African freedom fighters want to know who owns the land. Purpose land. All right. Now listen to the history. We've been here since creation. We've been here since creation. What else do you know? Since the time of sun and sand. Since the time of moon and stars. Since the time of air and seas. Since the time of men and things. We must rule from Cape to Cairo. I said we must rule our purpose land. Purpose land. Oh! Okay now. Now I want to talk to my people. Iradanima, oh, I will know. Yeah, Iradanima, oh, I will know. Happily son of Adaniba. Now we are the first row. On the femo, don't be right. Happily son of Adaniba. On the femo, don't be right. Oh, Felimu Mayagura Baba. Yeah, oh, Felimu Jasu Yaraka. Yeah, Felimu Zizanya Veto, yeah.
Stand with Ambazonia. Empower ABC Amba TV. This Saturday, we are calling on Ambazonians around the world to unite and uplift ABC Amba TV, Ambazonian Broadcasting Corporation. In this critical time of war, ensuring the station's survival is more important than ever. But what does ABC Amba TV truly represent for Ambazonia?
At the heart of Ambazonia's war of independence ABC Amba TV stands as a beacon. Years of recolonization, annexation, and French Cameroon's oppressive occupation of the southern Cameroon's Ambazonia have led to our exclusion. Our identity was hidden, our history distorted, our sovereignty denied. Queen of England is aware that the British Southern Cameroons were never a colony under France.
Since its inception in 2018, ABC Amba TV has been our lifeline.
Months of diplomacy have failed to resolve the crisis as fear grows over an imminent Russian invasion of Ukraine.
Our work in the dark is our chance to tell our stories to the world, to give voice to the voiceless and broadcast the truth of our struggle.
We are serious about executing this revolution.
It has become a vital arm of our government in wartime, making diplomacy achievable and showcasing our untold stories.
ABC Amba, you guys know how important ABC is for this, our quest for international recognition.
This Saturday, your donations can make a world of difference. Every bit of support helps keep our stories alive, our presence known, and our fight in the global conversation.
The moment they notice that we are no longer on air, they think that, oh, maybe La Republic has succeeded. This is about Amazonia. One thing we must always remember.
Where would we be without ABC Amba TV? Let's ensure we never have to find out.
A revolution is a temporary state of insanity to bring about sanity.
Mobilize, donate, stand with Ambazonia, donate to ABC Amba TV.
Together, let's write the next chapter of our history.
It is better to light the candle than to curse the dark.
Support ABC Amba TV campaign. Ambazonia Independence, voice for the voiceless. Mobilize for change. Mark the pages of history. The nation of Ambazonia garnered recognition from Camera Municipal Bareri, setting the stage for an unprecedented partnership in a bold stride towards fostering deeper ties with the people and nation of Brazil. President Sako steps into the limelight with the Brazilian press. At this critical time of war, history is poised to unfold once more. In the government's strategic plan, President Sako will take the forefront of the diplomatic outreach program through media and press initiatives, sharing insights, visions, and the dawn of a new chapter in interviews that promise to captivate. This momentous affair will be streamed continuously on ABC Amba TV for our esteemed viewers. Be part of this movement. This is a crucial aspect of our media warfare. Join us in this crusade.
Good evening, fellow Ambazonians, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon for those of you who are watching from other parts of the world. In Brazil right now, it is about 2 p.m. I think about 20 minutes after 2 p.m. We're supposed to begin by 1. We apologize for starting 1 hour late, but we had to connect with 3 different podcasts and studios or televisions in Brazil. We finally succeeded, and the program, as I speak to you, is currently being streamed through these platforms as we begin. We'll start right away. There's no monologue for me. It's not my day, but we want to give a recap to the Brazilian public. The speech the president delivered on the 1st of October, and that was translated in Portuguese. Right after that, the questions will begin.
Caros cidadãos dos Camarões do Sul, Amazônia. Queridos cidadãos do povo dos Camarões do Sul, Amazônia. Ao refletir sobre o 7º aniversário da nossa Declaração de Renovação de Independência, quero começar por reconhecer a sua coragem e resiliência. É encorajador ver que, apesar das muitas provações e tribulações que enfrentamos, a nossa determinação permanece intacta e a nossa busca pela autodeterminação inabalável. sabendo que o nosso sofrimento hoje não pode ser comparado com a glória da liberdade que temos diante de nós. A resposta do regime à nossa busca pacífica por justiça e igualdade tem sido uma série de massacres unilaterais do nosso povo inocente, especialmente dos jovens. Mostraram desprezo pelas nossas aspirações, rejeitaram as nossas queixas legítimas e recorreram a rotular a nossa luta como terrorismo. Esta narrativa está muito longe da dura realidade local, onde somos nós que estamos sujeitos à violência, incêndios criminosos, desaparecimentos forçados, estupros, encarceramento e assassinatos. A sua estratégia de tentar rotular a nossa luta como secessão ou terrorismo foi uma tentativa desesperada de obscurecer os seus crimes contra a humanidade cometidos no nosso país. O regime gastou milhões na compra de meios de comunicação social e em esforços de lobby para encobrir a sua terrível imagem e os crimes cometidos contra inocentes ambazonenses. A sua recusa no engajamento de um diálogo genuíno é uma prova do seu desrespeito pela nossa cultura democrática e do seu compromisso apenas com a força bruta. As suas tentativas de subjugar através da violência e do engano apenas reforçam a nossa determinação. Procuraram semear a discórdia entre nós, desacreditar a nossa liderança e criar confusão para justificar a sua recusa em negociar. Contudo, a história mostra que sempre nos apresentamos como uma delegação unificada, comprometida com um acordo justo e igualitário. A República dos Camarões não nos conquistou numa guerra. A verdade é que também não nos impusemos a eles. Eles prometeram respeitar a nossa escolha de soberania, de ficar ou optar por sair. Arrido disse isto em 1961, em seu famoso discurso na ONU, e eu repito: os dois territórios serão unidos, mas manterão as suas respectivas instituições. Os Camarões do Sul manterão a sua própria administração, o seu próprio parlamento e as suas próprias leis. Ele literalmente fez um voto perante os líderes mundiais quando acrescentou: prometemos e reafirmamos solenemente que as instituições dos Camarões do Sul serão respeitadas. Não anexaremos os Camarões do Sul. O Sr. Bia disse-nos recentemente que eles procuraram anexar-nos, apagar a nossa identidade e transformar a união de iguais numa conquista. Hoje, queremos recordar os sacrifícios feitos pelos nossos heróis e heroínas caídos, que deram as suas vidas para deter este grande mal, deter a fraude e recuperar a nossa liberdade. Honramos a sua memória e continuamos a nossa luta pela restauração de nossa dignidade, humanidade e soberania através da justiça e da igualdade. Meus queridos, exorto-vos a permanecerem firmes na sua determinação. Não somos covardes. Continuemos a resistir à tentativa do regime de nos eliminar do mapa. Devemos resistir a todas as tentativas do regime ou das suas forças por procuração para aumentar a dor que sofremos. Continuemos a responsabilizar esses bandidos colonialistas pelos seus crimes contra a humanidade. Se a fraude, o genocídio e a anexação são crimes contra a humanidade, então o Estado da República dos Camarões é um Estado criminoso. À medida que avançamos, lutemos com um renovado sentido de propósito e determinação. Queremos construir uma nação fundada nos princípios de equidade, justiça, igualdade e liberdade. Querido povo dos Camarões do Sul, vamos honrar os túmulos dos nossos heróis caídos, dos nossos cidadãos inocentes massacrados pelos camarões franceses. Honremos aqueles que continuam firmes adiante desta grande adversidade. Lembremos-nos dos desejos dos nossos pais fundadores, que só conseguem sorrir devido à nossa coragem em corrigir este erro. Devemos continuar a afirmar o nosso direito de viver livres, como qualquer outro território na África que é livre e que anteriormente esteve sob tutela da ONU. Merecemos a nossa própria sociedade, onde o nosso povo possa viver em paz e com dignidade, tal como foi previsto pelos nossos pais fundadores. Queridos compatriotas da resistência, recebemos relatórios de que um certo sul-camaronês foi detido na Noruega pelo governo da Noruega, por suspeita de cometer crimes contra a humanidade. Esperamos que a detenção não tenha sido motivada por questões políticas e que os suspeitos sejam julgados ao abrigo da lei norueguesa, não da lei dos Camarões, na medida em que não toleramos os atos grosseiros de crimes atrozes alegadamente cometidos pela ADF. Esperamos que o sistema judicial de jurisdição universal como a Noruega respeite o Estado de Direito, respeite o direito de todos os cidadãos a um julgamento rápido e justo e considere todos os suspeitos inocentes até que se prove o contrário. Então, deixe que a lei tome o seu curso. Sabemos que o inocente são inocentados e o criminoso só cai onde a lei é corretamente interpretada, sem medo ou favorecimento. A Noruega não é uma república de bananas. Portanto, deixe-me aproveitar essa oportunidade para lembrar também ao ministro da Justiça da Noruega que nós, o governo do povo dos Camarões do Sul, temos uma queixa criminal pendente apresentada em 2019 nos seus tribunais contra 98 suspeitos de genocídio e crimes de guerra nos Camarões, que também viajam de e para a Noruega. Você também fará maior justiça à humanidade ao levar a nossa denúncia para a investigação. Senhoras e senhores, vencemos a guerra que nos foi declarada. Para compreender a nossa vitória, é preciso compreender a batalha que pretendemos vencer desde o início. A nossa vitória não consiste em matar todas as forças inimigas. Como um povo alvo de aniquilação, por um ocupante implacável, o nosso objetivo número 1 era a sobrevivência. E sim, sobrevivemos ao 7º ano, ainda resistindo. Não somos mais os cães ou ratos que decidiram eliminar em 2 semanas. Depois de 7 anos sangrentos de uma guerra brutal, o inimigo não conseguiu esmagar a nossa guerrilha desorganizada. Pelo contrário, desenraigamos 80% de sua presença administrativa no território que Deus nos deu. A chamada canção única e indivisível tornou-se gradualmente um manto aposentado. Hoje, um conjunto de regras se aplica na Amazônia e outro conjunto de regras que se aplica aos Camarões franceses. Estamos a tomar conta do nosso destino. Chocamos o mundo e especialmente a França e aqueles que ajudam e encorajam esse projeto de extermínio. Conseguimos desmoronar a economia de guerra dos Camarões. Estamos sangrando a vida dos Camarões franceses. Ou os Camarões continuam a agarrar-se ao seu colapso titânico, ou todo este espaço geográfico será mergulhado num abismo de insegurança e miséria econômica. Anteriormente, a Grã-Bretanha argumentou que os Camarões do Sul não poderiam sobreviver economicamente sem se juntar aos Camarões franceses. Hoje a situação mudou. O que eu ouço agora é: os Camarões não podem sobreviver sem a Amazônia. A estratégia de desviar o olhar foi adotada pelos franceses e vendida à comunidade internacional para ajudar os Camarões franceses a esmagar-nos. Mas gradualmente está se tornando mais claro hoje que essa estratégia, se sustentada, afundará completamente a República dos Camarões, sem possibilidade de redenção. Não desista, meu povo. Somos a geração pela qual fonte orou em sua morte. Não sejam desencorajados por alguns corruptos contratados para desencorajar vocês. Não sejam desencorajados por alguns que desistiram ou perderam o foco. Não escute alguns que podem parecer sinceros com vocês, mas eles mesmos foram enganados por não poder separar a verdade da mentira. Nessa altura, em nossa luta, escolha seus amigos com cuidado. Não permita que eles escolham você. O ajuntamento dos tolos será destruído. Muitos são barulhentos, são muitos negativos, sempre castigando e chantageando aqueles que, na verdade, lutam pela Amazônia. Eles falam com grande paixão, mas as suas intenções são más. São mentirosos e manipuladores. Mesmo que você seja um anjo, se eles discordarem de vocês, eles irão te rotular como um monstro, um agente da República dos Camarões. Eles querem que seus inimigos também sejam seus inimigos. Caso contrário, você também se tornará inimigo deles. Tenha cuidado para não se envolver em cliques, para lutar não pelo que é bom para a Amazônia, mas pelo que é conveniente para o seu clique. Há uma guerra que todos decidimos travar e vencer. Não é a guerra contra outros patriotas. Não deveríamos ser definidos pelos nossos erros. Deveríamos ser definidos por aquilo que defendemos, porque todos cometem erros. O moinho da nossa diplomacia está trabalhando lenta, mas seguramente. Agradecemos aos nossos parceiros institucionais e amigos que somaram suas vozes à nossa causa este ano. Do continente africano à Europa, dos Estados Unidos continentais à América do Sul, fizemos muito para representar a nossa causa aos ouvidos atentos nos altos escalões, atraindo a simpatia de muitos que ainda ontem se importavam menos com a nossa existência. Não somos mais observados pela janela. Estamos nos corredores da decisão. É apenas uma questão de tempo para que as consciências que importam abordem o duplo padrão. Para verem com ousadia que o que é bom para a Ucrânia é bom para a Amazônia, e o que é errado para a Ucrânia é errado para a Amazônia. Meus queridos contemporâneos, agora estamos mais perto do fim desta jornada do que quando começamos. Esta guerra foi vencida espiritualmente e mentalmente. Embora o nosso adversário saiba disso, a luta final será disputada mais cedo ou mais tarde. Certamente acontecerá, mais cedo ou mais tarde, seja pela redenção do ocupante, por um golpe de Estado da República dos Camarões, por uma situação de guerra civil entre facções políticas dentro da República dos Camarões, por uma certa intervenção estrangeira orquestrada pelas mudanças geopolíticas da região, ou ainda um acordo negociado abrangente entre Camarões do Sul e os Camarões. Há 3 catalisadores em ações: a morte, o desaparecimento de Paul Biya, a nossa determinação em manter as chamas acesas, convulsões políticas, financeiras ou militares em Yaoundé e o comportamento de intervenientes internacionais. Entre os 4, o número 1 deve ser a nossa determinação em continuar a lutar. Prezado Exército da Amazônia, cada família tem um escolhido e cada aldeia tem alguns escolhidos. Além disso, cada nação escolheu pessoas de diferentes domínios e cada continente tem um povo escolhido. Até o mundo tem as suas nações escolhidas. Alguns de vocês que me ouvem, vivos ou mortos, estão entre os escolhidos que temos em Amazônia. Os escolhidos são os ungidos para a salvação de todos. Não são perfeitos. A vida dos escolhidos é um sacrifício pelo bem de todos. Amazônia. Uma nação que mata os seus escolhidos vagará no deserto durante 40 anos, como fizeram os israelitas quando rejeitaram Moisés. Não apoiarei ninguém que mate algum de vocês, seu colega, um escolhido, por poder, inveja ou dinheiro. Não se deixe distrair pelos apelos vazios à unidade por parte de alguns que não querem dizer que pregam e não pregam o que querem dizer. As palavras união ou colaboração significam várias coisas para diferentes pessoas. A nossa revolução não é a primeira desse tipo. Não há nenhum registro na história que sustente o fato de que todas as forças no movimento de libertação devem se tornar uma antes que a vitória aconteça. Você não pode unir duas pessoas com dois pontos de vista, a não ser pelo compromisso. Tal compromisso significa que alguém deveria abandonar a sua posição. Como poderíamos unir ou gerar colaboração entre aqueles que pararam de lutar e aqueles que ainda estão lutando? Como podemos unir ou gerar colaboração entre aqueles que aceitaram suborno com aqueles que não o fizeram? Como nós unimos ou colaboramos com aqueles que estão matando crianças e aqueles que estão capacitando crianças? Como vocês unem ou geram colaboração entre aqueles que vão para o norte e aqueles que vão para o sul? Como nos unimos ou colaboramos com o crime organizado e as forças de libertação? Se a reconciliação seria possível, por que eles primeiramente se recusam a ficar conosco? Por que eles decidiram sair da casa e derrubar os muros? Alguns disseram que foram embora porque não podiam mais tolerar nossa bagunça. O que mudou? Ainda estamos cheios de bagunça que eles não tolerariam ontem. Então, o que eles realmente querem, agora sob este manto de unidade? Parece que um movimento calculado para dar outro tiro. Por que deveríamos acreditar nos autores da desunião quando eles voltam para nós sem desculpas como apóstolos de uma unidade de colaboração? É verdade que quem fere os outros esquece as suas ações diante de quem é ferido. Com relação à diplomacia, à medida que continuamos a navegar pelas complexidades da nossa luta pela independência, reconhecemos o progresso lento, mas constante dos nossos esforços diplomáticos. Agradecemos o apoio e o reconhecimento que temos nos Estados Unidos, no Reino Unido, no Brasil, em termos de parcerias institucionais e reconhecimento. Fizemos progressos significativos na apresentação da nossa causa aos ouvidos atentos em esferas críticas. Já não nos veem pela janela. Entramos nos corredores da tomada de decisão. A nossa mensagem de autodeterminação e liberdade ressoou a muitos e estamos confiantes de que a maré da opinião pública está mudando a nosso favor. Tal como a situação na Ucrânia demonstrou, o que é bom para uma nação pode ser bom para outra. E o que é errado em um lugar pode ser errado em todos os lugares. Não estamos sozinhos na nossa luta e continuaremos a traçar paralelos entre a nossa causa e as lutas de outras nações. Caros prisioneiros, refugiados e pessoas deslocadas domesticamente, eu saúdo todos vocês pela coragem que muitos de vocês têm demonstrado em dificuldades extremas. A sua resiliência nos traz esperança e confiança. Continuaremos clamando a seu favor. Num mundo propenso a conflitos e racialmente dividido, para que ajudadores venham ao nosso encontro. Continuaremos a lançar luz sobre as injustiças e os abusos extremos dos direitos humanos que vocês sofreram diariamente nas mãos do governo desonesto dos camarões franceses. Continuaremos a solicitar ajuda material e espiritual que vocês necessitam para que se mantenham unidos até que a liberdade chegue. Embora todos nós na diáspora sejam considerados refugiados e prisioneiros em vários graus, sabemos que alguns estão em situações mais terríveis e necessitam do nosso apoio. A este respeito, apelo a todos os nossos camaradas patrióticos para que apoiem as iniciativas de boa vontade dos nossos departamentos de saúde e serviços sociais e o nosso departamento de serviços à mulher, que estão fazendo o seu melhor para estender a mão a centenas de milhares de pessoas afetadas. Apelamos à comunidade humanitária para que considere a situação do nosso povo sofredor. Sabemos que uma crise ofusca a outra, mas o nosso povo merece pelo menos a sua defesa. Meu povo, vamos todos continuar com esta jornada de esperança, sabendo que a verdade está do nosso lado. E mesmo Deus não nos abandonará. Já não é uma questão de se, mas de quando. E a árvore da liberdade que regamos com o nosso sangue florescerá. Vá em frente e celebre este dia à mesa com seus filhos e conte a eles o motivo deste dia. Diga-lhes por que lutamos e por que eles não são camaroneses. Conte os nomes dos nossos heróis nacionais e ore por eles, para que, se não entrarmos nessa terra prometida hoje, eles estejam prontos para enfrentar a ocasião e completar a nossa jornada. Eu desejo a vocês um feliz dia da independência de 2024. Viva as Forças Armadas do Estado da Amazônia, viva o Camarões do Sul, Amazônia.
Mr. President, you're welcome to this and now we're welcoming Felipe, and I welcome Valeria. You have VB1 Studio and the studio where Philip, thank you for the great interpretation you did there. I'm not sure if I understood anything, but I believe that you did it well. I'll be handing the mic to you right now. So as always, you are going to try interpret the president to the journalists and vice versa, but you're going to do the interpretation as we go. We'll begin with Valeria, who is an independent podcaster. So she is reporting directly from her own studio. So she will take the first two questions and you will interpret the questions to the president. Then we'll move to B Studios that will provide for us the second two sets of questions, and you interpret that to the president. Then in your own studio, you take the next set of questions, and then we'll do a second round. That will be a conclusion. It's going to be a long day for you, and thank you for opting to do this job for us. We need to begin now. Mr. President, please.
Thank you for having me.
Obrigado por me receberem aqui.
So let's begin with Valeria and the president.
Olá.
Felipe, please, you do the interpretation. Valeria, please.
Okay, let me just explain to them. O que o Padre nos disse é que primeiro a Valéria vai fazer duas perguntas, depois o pessoal da VB Studios e depois nós aqui mais duas perguntas, e aí nós voltamos no ciclo. A Valéria, a VB Studios e o nosso estúdio. Valéria, por gentileza.
Samuel, muito prazer. É uma honra estar aí, prestigiando essa coletiva. Diante de tudo isso que você está atuando, há quanto tempo, né? Me fale, há quanto tempo você está em busca da igualdade, de tudo essas questões que estão acontecendo? O que te dá força para continuar e para não desistir diante de tudo isso?
Okay, President, it's an honor to be here with you. It's a pleasure.
I'd like to know, for how long have you been fighting for the freedom of Ambazonia? And what is it that gives you strength to continue?
Yes, Valeria, thank you for that opening question. As an individual, I would say I started fighting from birth because the moment from the time I was growing up. As soon as I became conscious of my life and my environment, I discovered that I was everywhere was oppression. Gendarmes and soldiers would come to our home at 3 a.m. in the night, break the doors and push everybody out and torment my father, torment my mother. They call it Kale Kale. You can interpret first before I continue.
Yep.
Ok.
So,
So,
yeah, Philip.
então, ok. O presidente disse que desde que ele tem consciência de gente, ou seja, desde quando ele era criança, ele tomou conhecimento do ambiente em que ele vivia, ele iniciou essa luta. Ele se lembra de uma noite em que 3 da manhã invadiram a casa dele e colocaram a família dele para fora e houve repressão e tudo mais.
Well, I was born in oppression, and I've lived through oppression and deprivation, dehumanization, rejection, all through my life under that umbrella called that you know as the Republic of Cameroon.
Eu nasci nesse ambiente de opressão, de desumanização das pessoas, de depravação e tudo isso que vocês conhecem que está acontecendo agora nos Camarões do Sul.
But our struggle started before I was born.
Então, essa luta, ela vem desde antes de eu nascer.
That was since 1961.
Sim. Então, é uma história, né?
Sim, e também teve início aí desde 1961, a data da independência.
The present escalation actually began in 2017 when we said enough is enough.
A situação em que nós estamos agora, o nível em que nós chegamos, na verdade, deu-se início em 2017, o estopim, quando nós dissemos que já bastava. Se você quiser perguntar, Valéria.
Então, em 2017 se iniciou todo esse projeto em busca da igualdade, da justiça, da paz, né? E aí, desde então vocês vêm conquistando várias pessoas que estão vendo o que está acontecendo, coisas que estavam escondidas, né? E fale pra gente mais sobre isso. Outros países que estão contribuindo.
Okay, Mr. President, so since 2017, you've been fighting for freedom, for justice, for equality, and you also have been trying to reach out to people in other countries. So how is this situation concerning people from other countries that are aware and are also supporting you?
In terms of awareness, I can tell you that we have done a great work together with the media and people like you around the world, on the African continent, in Europe, and in the Americas, in Brazil, to bring this awareness to the people. People are aware of the injustice, of the historic injustice that we have suffered. They are aware of the plight, of the genocide going on in my country. They are aware. Human rights organizations testify. Now, the problem is we have not had the ruling class, because there is a difference between the people and the ruling class. The ruling class is a system. They have not come out publicly to support us because everybody seems to be a friend to our oppressor. And I keep on saying that any friendship that requires that you have to be to the innocent is wrong before God and man. So that's where we are today. I cannot tell you that we have had nation states that are outright openly supporting us. Some have sympathized with our cause, and I know that they will certainly do the right thing when their consciences are touched on this issue.
Então, em questão de ciência da nossa situação e conhecimento, nós temos feito um grande trabalho. A mídia, a grande mídia e pessoas como você, que estão cientes e estão nos ajudando, pessoas na África, pessoas na América, pessoas no Brasil, estão todos cientes da injustiça histórica que está acontecendo conosco e dos ataques repressivos que nós estamos sofrendo. A grande questão é que as pessoas comuns, elas são diferentes dos governantes. E com relação aos governantes, infelizmente, a maioria deles costuma ser amigo dos nossos repressores. Então, neste momento, não há Estado que formalmente está apoiando a nossa causa, mas um ou outro político tem ajudado, e eu tenho certeza que eles procuram fazer a coisa correta, mas não há um Estado formalmente nos apoiando.
Sim, sim.
Okay, there is a very important question Valeria asked that you didn't give opportunity for the president to respond. What is the president's driving force? You want to give an opportunity for him to respond to that, and then you translate, and then we move into your studio where we try to connect VB studios. I guess they are disconnected. Please.
Okay. Então, Valéria, existe uma pergunta muito importante que precisa ser respondida por parte do presidente a você, que seria com relação à questão da presidência. Qual que é o papel da presidência nisso tudo?
Yes, yes, Valeria. I think the force.
Qual o papel da presidência nisso tudo? Me fale. O papel da presidência nisso tudo. Como você vai conseguir ajudar as pessoas que têm tanta expectativa no Samuel, presidente da Amazônia? Conta isso pra gente, porque é muita responsabilidade, né? E eu vendo você falar lá no discurso, ouvindo, eu senti que você falou umas questões que muito se fala, mas pouca atitude. E o que o Samuel tem, o que ele tem a fazer, o que ele tem de objetivos, assim, conta pra gente.
So, Mr. President, how is it to be the president, the person in who people put their expectations, they put their hope in you? She's asking this because she considers this to be a lot of responsibility. And you said in your speech that are many people that speak, but not many people that are doing something. Regarding you, what are you doing? What people can expect from you?
Yes, what I can tell you is that my principal motivation, the engine that keeps me going, is called truth and justice. Because truth and justice is on our side. It is better to live for it than to accept such injustice in our own time when we have an opportunity to correct it, or allow the forces of injustice and all those that support it to prevail. So we are in a fight that is existential. And when you are facing an existential fight, you can't give up. It's not for any reward, because it's just for your own existence. It's a fight for my existence and those of my children, and the thousands of orphans that have been made by this war. I tell myself that justice, truth and justice must prevail. And for those who are looking up to me, this is not a personality-centered struggle. This is a people's struggle. They're only looking up to me because probably I speak their language. because they think they can trust in my judgment, in making the right decisions that will lead to their liberation, and that I will not sell out on them. I will not join the oppressor and make a deal and deny them their rights. So all I can say is that um, I believe in the supernatural, and I know that God is on the side of the victim and the innocent, and that uh, He will favor us in this fight because evil can prevail for 99 years, but there is there will be a time for the truth to prevail, and if that will be in my time, okay. I still believe that even if I don't see the realization of this dream, we have sufficiently passed the torch to our next generation to know that this is a fight they must fight to win. It's either they fight and win and have a nation, or they will have none.
Ok. Eu digo às pessoas que a minha motivação, o motor principal é chamado de verdade e justiça. É melhor eu viver por esta causa do que aceitar a injustiça ou permitir que aqueles que ajam com injustiça vençam. Isso não é pela guerra em si, mas pela minha existência, pela existência dos meus filhos e pela existência dos milhares de pessoas que esperam em mim. A justiça deve permanecer. Não é uma luta. Eu acredito que a justiça deve permanecer. E com relação a mim, não é uma luta de uma personalidade, mas do povo. E eles me veem como uma representação deles. E porque eu falo a mesma língua, eu os represento com relação a alguém que não aceita ou não faz acordo com a injustiça. E eu acredito que eu sou uma pessoa espiritual e acredito que Deus está do nosso lado. E haverá um tempo em que nós prevaleceremos. Se não for agora, na minha geração, que seja na próxima. E por isso, então, nós devemos também preparar a próxima geração para continuar lutando.
Sim.
Thank you very much, Xavier. I would like us, Valeria, we're going to come back to you. I would like us to move into your own studio now so that those who are in your studio can ask their question, and also indicate to Xavier and AB Studios to reconnect. I've sent them a new login. Please, your studio should ask some questions. We're going to come back to Valeria.
Ok. O nosso estúdio agora vai fazer as perguntas e depois nós vamos voltar com a Valéria. O Pastor Comando is gonna make some questions.
Yes, Mr. President, thank you so much for all that you are doing for Amazonia. We here in Brazil, we actually want to find out from you what Amazonia wants us to do and what part should we play in this return of Amazonia to her country.
Ok. Pastor, presidente, eu quero agradecer em primeiro lugar por tudo aquilo que o senhor tem feito pela Amazônia. E nós, que somos o povo da Amazônia, temos uma pergunta que é o que esperar de nós, ou seja, qual que é o papel particular de cada um nessa luta para que nós possamos alcançar a nossa liberdade.
Yes, Pastor Kumaro, thank you for that question. Everywhere I go, and everywhere we go as a movement, we know that we are talking nations that have diplomatic relations with the Republic of Cameroon. So, in that sense, people have some relationship, or they are the friends of the Republic of Cameroon. But we are also the people of the southern Cameroons. We are not the enemies of any of these nations. The people of Amazonia are not the enemies of Brazil, are not the enemies of America. They are not the enemies of the French, are not the enemies of Britain or any country in the world that has got any form of relationship with the Republic of Cameroon. So any friendship that will require you to hate the innocent and deprive the victim of justice is not what the world needs right now. So we are saying that if you find yourself in such crossroads, because after we leave here, some people will be knocking some doors and say, you are our friend, you are a friend. But any friendship that requires you to do injustice to the innocent is evil to this world and the peace that we need. So when you find yourself in that situation, what must you do? You have to make sure that you work for peace and justice. That means you make your voice heard in the international circle. You have to talk. We would like Brazil to take our matter to the United Nations, for example, so that the matter should be heard in the United Nations, because that's where it started. Our problem did not start because we woke up one day crazy and say we want to fight and secede. Our problem started in the United Nations. They are the ones who mandated this, and they are the ones who caused this. And if something is wrong, they should hear it. Brazil should give us their voice. And also, if to the extreme, they cannot help by through the mechanisms that exist to bring justice to the victims, they can help us also and give us whatever we need to survive. Our refugees need to survive. Our populations back home need to survive. And justice need to be pursued so that this evil should end and people should stop dying.
Muito obrigado pela sua pergunta, Pastor Comando. Em todo lugar que nós vamos e encontramos pessoas que conhecem o nosso movimento, nós devemos saber que nós estamos representando diplomaticamente a Amazônia, ou seja, quer dizer que a pessoa que nos recebe, ela tem que ter uma certa amizade conosco, porque nós não somos inimigos da República dos Camarões, nós não somos inimigos de ninguém, nem na América, nem no Brasil, nem na África, na Europa. Então, o que nós devemos fazer é faça amizades com pessoas que lutam pela justiça. Dessa maneira você pode trabalhar pela paz e também alçar a sua voz no ambiente internacional, até que cheguemos à ONU, porque o nosso problema, na verdade, começou na ONU. O Brasil também pode alçar a sua voz como país, e o mais importante é que nos dê suporte com qualquer mecanismo de sobrevivência, porque o mais importante é que a nossa nação e o nosso povo possa sobreviver.
Muito obrigado, Ricardo. Thank you very much, Mr. President. There is heavy rains in some parts of Brazil. That is why the VB studios are out. And Pastor Javier has come on the phone to ask a question. He asked a question on the phone. O jornalista Javier, o microfone está com você. Você pode falar agora, o presidente está escutando você.
Boa tarde, presidente, aqui no Brasil. Boa tarde aos amigos que estão nos acompanhando. Gostaria de perguntar ao nobre presidente como está o apoio dos países em favor do reconhecimento da Amazônia e a sua possível libertação deste cativeiro que a Amazônia tem vivido por parte aí de Camarões e a França. Quais as expectativas para um futuro próximo a gente poder visualizar aí a retomada do poder do presidente ascender novamente o poder de Amazônia.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. Thank you for this opportunity. I'd like to ask you how is the situation of the support that the countries are giving to recognize in the Amazonia country and to help them to reach their freedom from the repressors, Cameroons and French. What can we expect in the future concerning, or a very soon future concerning those things?
Yes, journalist Javier, thank you for the question. We have spoken to many and speaking to many around the continent. Africa has 54 countries plus Ambazonia, that will be 55. We're speaking to many of them and speaking to the European countries, and here in the United States, we are in contact with many countries. Some of them give us lip service. They look at the issue and they said, this is really evil. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. You guys are right. This is injustice. They condemn, especially before us. And some even go ahead to make statements of condemnation, condemning both sides for one thing or the other for this war. Then we also have another reaction, a reaction of others who went a step forward, requiring that there should be a negotiated settlement. This negotiated settlement was supported by the United Nations, supported by the US, supported by Canada, funded by Canada, supported by the Swiss government and the EU. And the process lasted for 2.5 years, when Cameroon unilaterally withdrew themselves from that process. So we have that's how much we have got from the international community. They wanted a negotiated settlement that depended on whether La Republique likes it, if La Republique will accept it. So they gave them the liberty, latitude to accept or reject. So we are saying that the future we are saying is that the international community should oblige Cameroon to come to the table, to meet us on the table. Because when the United Nations sent us to join with them in 1961, they did not conquer us in a war. So there is no need for war. We started on the table. If there's a problem, we should go back to the table. They should go back to the table. So we are expecting that the next move we're expecting for the international community to bring justice on this matter, oblige the Republic of Cameroon to the table, or refer this matter to the International Court of Justice for arbitration, because there are international legal instruments that are at the foundation of our experiment. If something is wrong, those articles, those instruments should be interpreted by the International Court of Justice. So in that way, they are obliged to be on the table, because peace is cheaper than war, as far as the lives of people are concerned.
Ok, obrigado pela sua pergunta. E o que acontece? Falamos com muitos países, principalmente no continente da África, e no continente da África, contando com a Amazônia, nós temos 55 países. Nós temos o primeiro cenário que alguns nos dão razão, e quando é exposta para eles a situação, eles condenam a injustiça. Muitos estão fazendo declarações ao nosso favor. E o outro cenário nos dizem que precisamos sentar numa mesa de negociação. Uma mesa de negociação que seja respaldada pela ONU, pelos Estados Unidos, pelo Canadá. O que ocorre é que já foi feita essa tentativa num processo que durou 2 anos, e a própria República dos Camarões saíram desse processo de negociação. Eles querem, normalmente, uma mesa de negociação com pontos que sejam aceitáveis para os Camarões. Então, o que a comunidade internacional deve fazer é pressionar os Camarões da República dos Camarões para que se sente conosco e para que nós tenhamos uma negociação de forma correta. Porque desde 1961, quando nós conseguimos nossa independência, a República dos Camarões não nos venceu numa guerra. O que então nós precisamos fazer é pressionar para que eles se sentem à mesa conosco para fazer essa negociação. Ou, ainda, devemos apresentá-los à Corte Internacional de Justiça, onde existem instrumentos que devem ser utilizados, instrumentos esses que, pela experiência que nós temos, são utilizados sempre que ocorre uma injustiça, como é o que está acontecendo, por exemplo, na guerra da Ucrânia.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. President. The VB studios also are online because, as I told you, there's heavy rains falling here, and some of the studios have lights out, like Fala Guarus, who just asked a question. So we have journalist Alex, who is online right now, and he has a question. Alex, what's the point of Fala?
Boa tarde, senhor presidente, Samuel. Hoje aqui no Brasil, 15h13. E, senhor presidente, é um prazer estar falando com o senhor aqui da VB Studio. E gostaria de fazer a seguinte pergunta. Na colocação hoje da questão entre a Amazônia e os países, qual a posição que ela está ocupando a nível de independência e a nível também de grau de liberdade do seu povo nesse momento, ou melhor, gostaria de saber quais os mecanismos estão sendo usados para que a Amazônia seja reconhecida de vez.
Mr. President, it's a pleasure to talk to you from VB Studios. And my question is concerning Amazonia and the other countries, in relation to the other countries, what is the level of independence and recognition that you have? What is the current situation? And I also want to know what are the tools that are being used so that Amazonia can get free.
Yes, thank you, Alex. We are a sovereign people that have been annexed by French Cameroon. That is the situation. Our independence resolution by the United Nations is Resolution 1608, Article 15 of the 21st of April 1961. That resolution is definite on one thing: the end of the trusteeship agreement and the independence of the Southern Cameroons Amazonia on the 1st of October 1961. That one is concluded in that resolution. Please stop talking in the background.
What's it all?
Okay.
So that resolution is conclusive on our independence. But the resolution goes forward to be inconclusive as far as the joining of another country called the Republic of Cameroon is concerned. It prescribes that 3 parties must meet together to agree on the terms of the creation of that new country. They are the British, the Southern Cameroons, and the Republic of Cameroon. That meeting did not take place because the French Cameroon was contemplating annexation. So they rejected that. The meeting did not take place. That meeting never took place, because if it took place, we would have agreed on the terms of creating the Federal Republic of the Cameroons. So the independence was definitively decided by the resolution, but the union of a new country that was supposed to be created was not concluded in that resolution. It was predicated on the holding of a tripartite conference that would decide the foundation of that new country. That meeting never took place. So everything we have had from 1961 till today is annexation. We have been annexed. As at now, where are we? Under annexation, our people are seriously defending themselves from annihilation, because the Republic of Cameroon has decided to, rather, instead of visiting the foundation of the flawed union, of the failed union, they have decided that if they can just annihilate us, will be of no consequence. and they will not need to talk to us as a people. So our people are busy defending themselves with anything they can find and anything they have to make sure that that's not the case. As I can tell you right now, we are controlling a good chunk of our territory in terms of the presence of our people and the absence of the Republic of Cameroon authorities in the area. But territorial control is, as a matter of, in terms of governance, is still in the hands of those who have annexed us, because their soldiers are going everywhere they can, marauding everywhere and killing our people and killing whoever they can find that is a threat to their presence in our country. So for now, I cannot tell you that we have full territorial control. We are locked in a battle against a people that call themselves our neighbors, who reject dialogue and who think that they have the power and the monopoly to kill us just to avoid dialogue so that they can own us without question. So, but we are fighting. We are seriously fighting, and we are going to do so with every breath that is in our nostrils in order to survive. Because if not, we have been marked for annihilation. We have been marked for annihilation by our enemies.
Ok. Muito obrigado, Alex, por essa pergunta. Na verdade, nós somos um povo soberano que foi anexado pelos Camarões. A nossa resolução número 1608, artigo 15, que é a resolução da independência de abril de 1961, ela determina isso. Ou seja, o fim da tutela, que era dada pela França, e a fim da tutela dos britânicos e a nossa independência. Mas essa resolução ela foi inconclusiva depois que os Camarões entraram nas negociações, porque deveria haver 3 partes nessas negociações, que seria a Inglaterra, a Amazônia e a República dos Camarões. Mas isso nunca aconteceu. Nunca aconteceu essa negociação, porque se ocorresse, por parte dos Camarões, seria criado a Federação dos Camarões. Então, desde 1961 até agora, nós temos sido anexados e estamos ainda sob anexação. O nosso povo está se defendendo da aniquilação com tudo que pode. Os Camarões, ao invés de decidir pela negociação ou pelo diálogo, eles decidiram simplesmente nos aniquilar. E nós decidimos nos defender, nós vamos nos defender com tudo que nós temos. Neste momento, nós temos o controle de uma grande parte do território com relação às pessoas que estão ali assentadas. Porém, eu considero que esse controle não é total, porque ainda assim o exército da República dos Camarões, eles têm liberdade para ir em qualquer lugar dentro desse território, para poder aniquilar pessoas, matar ou reprimir. Eles pensam que, na verdade, tomaram a decisão de nos matar para justamente evitar o diálogo. Então, o que nós vamos fazer é usar tudo que nós temos para sobreviver, porque se não fosse assim até agora, nós já teríamos sido aniquilados.
Thank you very much, Felipe. I think I'd like us to go back to why Pastor Commando is trying to correspond with AB Studios and get them to answer. Let them avoid talking at the background when the president is talking, so that we can have a smooth transmission. I would like you to go back to hand the mic back to Valeria. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. And when she's asking her questions, then we'll come back to your studio and then to ABS before the president will give his final statement. I'm announcing to all those who are following us, even to those who are watching from Brazil, that there will be a post-analysis later on, and we will still need you to interpret to them. So let's give the mic to Valeria.
Eu gostaria de agradecer ao Alex, o padre agradeceu as perguntas. Ele pediu que todo mundo, por gentileza, tentasse se atentar, porque alguma conversa no microfone pode atrapalhar durante as perguntas. E nós vamos voltar agora com a Valéria, E depois que nós terminarmos todas as perguntas, depois ainda terá uma palestra, uma pequena palestra que vai ser interpretada. Valéria, você pode fazer a sua próxima pergunta.
Presidente, bom, voltando aqui, né, Valéria Kudaka aqui do podcast Toque de Valéria. Diante de toda essa luta, né, que o presidente Samuel está, né, em busca da paz, em busca da igualdade, várias questões, eu tenho certeza que teve várias conquistas, mas também teve momentos de, poxa, hoje foi muito ruim, né, hoje... E você falou, né, em alguma resposta aí, que você é uma pessoa muito espiritual, né? Que você tem muito essa questão. Eu também sou. E eu tenho certeza que é isso que fortalece, né? Então, conta pra gente como esse presidente consegue ser tão forte diante dessa situação.
Mr. President, considering all this fight for peace and equality, I know that during many times, during many days, you have already conquered many things. But also I know that there were sad days. So I also consider myself a spiritual person, as you told regarding yourself. So how this spiritual side of yours helps you during this fight?
On the spiritual side, what I get is strength. When everything in the physical seems to fail, there is the invisible that I know is constant, that cannot fail. When I remember his assurances and revelations to me, I know that they cannot lie. So I hold on to them, believing that he who has started a good thing will also finish it for Amazonia. Believing that the God we know is the God of justice. In every confession that I know of faith, God is a God of justice. And since justice is on our side, we know He's on our side. And we sure will prevail with Him on our side. The evil can reign for a season. And they can reign like a pharaoh. They can reign like all the evil kings that we have known. And at a certain point, it will be like there is no way, there's no hope for the just and the oppressed. But this is my assurance that I know that justice, the justice of the divine, will always prevail. So that is my strength that I get the inside. That's what makes me believe against all odds that justice will prevail, because God is on our side. We are also people who believe in God. We are majority, a country of faith. We believe God and we pray, and we know that it is only prayers that have made us to survive the onslaught of a barbaric system which has killed many of our relatives, maimed them, burned hundreds of our villages, disappeared thousands that we don't know where they are, incarcerated many that are not even known, we don't even know their names, and we have buried thousands or thousands. And they are doing everything to silence us. The only thing that can strengthen me is the belief that there is some justice that is above the justice of that the eyes can see, and this one will surely prevail and will prevail on our behalf.
Ok. Com relação ao meu lado espiritual, é daí realmente da onde eu tiro força. Quando eu sei que tudo no mundo material falha, o invisível que é constante não falha. Eu sei que aquele que me prometeu, ele não mente, e que aquele que começou a obra é aquele que vai terminar também. Sei que Deus é um Deus de justiça, e nós vamos vencer. O mal pode prevalecer por algum tempo, mas não até o final. E alguns pensam que não existe a esperança. Mas eu sei que isso não é verdade. Eu sei que contra todos os obstáculos, a justiça prevalecerá. O nosso povo também é um povo de fé. E todos nós sabemos que se não fosse pela oração, nós não teríamos sobrevivido. Porque mataram muitos de nós, queimaram vilas, desapareceram com alguns de nós, nos aprisionaram, mas eu acredito numa justiça que está acima daquilo que os olhos podem ver. E é crendo nessa justiça que eu acredito que no final nós venceremos.
É isso aí. É isso aí, com certeza, né? Muita
Yes,
fé.
President, so you can be sure that's it. You are right.
Okay, let's take the next questions from Xavier, journalist Xavier again, and ABS Studio, before the president gives his closing remark.
Então, antes de que o presidente dê o seu discurso final, a gente vai seguir para as perguntas. O próximo vai ser o Xavier e depois o pessoal da VB Studio. Próximo a perguntar pode ser o Xavier. Não sei se o pastor Xavier está conectado. Nós vamos passar então para a VB Studio fazer a sua próxima pergunta. We don't know if Pastor Javier is connected, so we're going to move to VB Studios.
I think we'll have the president, if Valeria doesn't have a question, we'll have the president give a closing remark so that we can call it a day. It has been remarkable.
Okay, então, so we should consider this, we can call it a day, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Let the president give his closing remark, and then we can move on from there.
Tá, ok. Então, vamos terminar então, né? Porque o Javier não está conectado e, na verdade, a gente pode considerar já como produtivo e finalizado esse período e o presidente vai dar o seu discurso final.
Yes, Miss Valeria, a good friend, and all the television houses that are helping us transmit our message of peace and justice to the people of Brazil. I want to say thank you. You know, injustice only prevails when the just are silent or corrupt, and so do nothing or say nothing. The consciences of those that are perpetrating evil will only be touched when a good majority of the voices shall begin to be heard all over the place. Then that is when probably justice shall be obtained. That's what happens. Because if we are silent, then nothing is happening. In fact, our oppressors, those who are killing us every day as I speak, my people, I've even buried my brother. Those who are killing us, they pray that we are silent and that nobody hears about it. So as you add your voices to our voices, for people to hear and know the truth, I believe that consciences will be touched and actions shall be taken. So mouths that have been zipped shall be opened. And people that did not know will say, wow, and they will do something. That is only when the evil, the wicked, and the wicked few, they are not even many, shall sit up and do the right thing. Whether in the United Nations, whether in the government houses, whether in the African Union, that's when they will start doing the right thing. The people of Brazil, you are a voice not only in America, in the world, but on the continent of Africa, your voice. We beg for your voice, and your voice is to be heard. so that this blackout, information blackout, shall cease, and the evil will not continue to prevail and continue their evil, rejecting peace and justice, preferring rather to kill and annihilate the people of Amazonia who only desire to form a great nation with them. We did not commit a crime. They did not annex us. They did not conquer us in a war. Yet they decided to annex people like us, gentlemen like us, democratic people, peace-loving people, decided to annex us. And then now, when we ask why, they want to kill us. They are killing us, all of us. As I speak to you like this, when the statistics of this war shall be written, when it is all over, I'm sure the death in Amazonia will be more than that of Rwanda. The world is just waiting. Don't wait for that hour when everything is done and then we are taking the stock. You'll be shocked about what kind of genocide is taking place in Amazonia. So please, as I know that after we leave, the enemy will come around and start knocking your doors and say, don't let them talk. Don't diffuse their information. Don't let the world hear anything they say. They will come to you. That's what they do. They believe that they have money, so they can do evil, and they have the power to cover it, and justice will never be done. So, but if you say no and join the people of Amazonia on the side of truth and justice, it will not be for long again. We shall be together in Buea, in our capital city, to celebrate our deserved freedom and autonomy. Thank you very much.
Bem,
Yeah, Felipe, please, do you want to translate what the president said there?
Yeah, sure. Valéria, minha boa amiga, e todos da televisão das televisões que estão transmitindo, eu quero agradecer. Eu quero dizer que a injustiça somente vence quando os justos estão em silêncio ou se corrompem. A consciência dos maus será despertada quando a maioria das vozes pela justiça, a favor da justiça, alçarem-se. Senão, nós não teremos paz, porque continuamos sendo mortos todos os dias. Então, levantem suas vozes, porque eu sei que a consciência de muitos será desperta e farão com certeza aquilo que é o correto. Algo por nós farão, seja na ONU, na África, no Brasil, e particularmente o povo do Brasil. Vocês são as vozes que estão ecoando no mundo inteiro. Nós pedimos pela sua voz e que essa falta de informação deve cessar. Eles continuam nos atacando, mas nós não cometemos crime. E eles não nos venceram em guerra. E por isso nós nos perguntamos por que é que eles nos decidiram nos matar. Eu tenho certeza que quando vierem à tona a estatística dessa guerra, as mortes e as atrocidades serão maiores do que aquelas contadas em Ruanda. E se o inimigo acaso vier bater na sua porta, não os deixe falar. Eles acreditam que por ter dinheiro e por ter poder, podem fazer aquilo que eles querem. Mas isso vai terminar, se nós dissermos não. E nós vamos, depois de tudo, quando a paz vier, nós vamos nos encontrar na capital da Amazônia, nosso país, para celebrar a nossa liberdade.
Thank you very much, Felipe. I must say that you're exceptional. Mr. President, thank you for your time. You were with us in the studio before, like even an hour. We understand that you have a busy schedule. We'd like to allow you to go now. Thank you for joining the broadcast. Yeah, Philip, I'm asking you please to just stay on. In the next 15 minutes, we're doing a brief analysis of some of the things the president would have been discussing and explaining it even elaborately for the Brazilian community. And we'd like you to translate that for those TVs at the background. So please just try to stay on as we continue the production. We'll be back right after the break.
The silent struggle of southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. A chronicle of escalating refugee crisis, human rights abuses, and global indifference. Dive into the heart-wrenching narrative of Southern Cameroons, also known as Ambazonia, where a relentless refugee crisis and rampant human rights abuses unfold amidst a backdrop of international neglect. Explore the untold stories of resilience, despair, and the urgent need for global attention and intervention.
I want to thank our head, Mr. Sako, for the kind gesture with the GUI, President Sako for we Amazonian land. Some of us we are disabled, and because of war, I lost my family, my wife, my children. I have only my grandchildren living with me. So once they make continue to give us this gesture, because some of us who don't have means, we get some small thing for ourselves. I don't have the strength to stand and do something with one leg.
I am appealing for humanitarian support for my people. Ambazonian refugees need our help. In a world brimming with indifference, we are compelled by duty, compassion, and an undying need for justice to raise our voices for the unheard. The plight of the Southern Cameroon's Ambazonian refugees cries out for immediate action. War, displacement, and marginalization have plunged innocent lives into unfathomable suffering. Can we turn a blind eye to such human agony? In the name of our shared humanity, we must act, and we must act now.
A cry for justice and compassion, the untold sufferings in Ambazonia. Well, it is no news that war exacts a profound toll on societies, tearing apart communities and fracturing families. However, the conflict between the Cameroons and Ambazonia, the Southern Cameroons, has been ongoing for over 8 heartbreaking years. This brutal conflict not only epitomizes devastation, leading to the displacement of over 2 million people, but it also thrusts into light a harrowing modern-day genocide.
When the sound of gunfire pierced the serene skies over southern Cameroon's Ambazonia, a thriving community was thrust into a relentless storm of chaos and despair. Decades of socio-political inequalities, marginalization, and a belligerent occupation escalated into a brutal conflict, the effects of which have reverberated far beyond the nation's borders. Innocent civilians, our sons and daughters, mothers and fathers, are now faceless statistics in the stark realities of war, displaced, terrified, and forsaken.
It is sad to say that this is not just a struggle for survival, but a dire quest for basic human dignity. We have seen women and children in broad daylight, the most vulnerable pillars of every society, have been uprooted from their homes. They journeyed to far distant lands seeking refuge, but found themselves ensnared in different webs of suffering. The journey alone offers a taste of the brutality ahead. Countless souls have not only succumbed to the treacherous terrains of the Darien Gap in Southern America, but also the roasting deserts in North Africa, with some wasting in the high sea, seeking for safety and greener pastures. A harsh testament to the sheer desperation driving the young men and women and youth's exodus.
The people of Ambazonia suffer under the weight of intrusion, aggression, and recolonization by French Cameroon, with little to no international intervention. It is profoundly troubling that the global community continues to turn a blind eye. Why this humanitarian catastrophe is being overlooked and underestimated by credible human rights organizations remains a mystery.
As healthcare professionals and political activists committed to a just, healthy, and humane world, it is incumbent upon us to demand immediate international attention to this humanitarian crisis. We call upon world governments, humanitarian organizations, and individuals of conscience to heed the cry for justice. Humanitarian aid must be mobilized to provide food, shelter, and medical care. Efforts must hinge on creating safe corridors for those in transit and fair asylum processes for those who reach host countries.
Human rights reporting and underestimation of displacement figures by credible humanitarian organizations. Accurate reporting on the crisis in southern Cameroon is gravely impacted by intimidation tactics employed by the oppressive regime of Biya, leading to significant underestimation of displacement figures. While the UNHCR reports approximately 87,000 Cameroonian refugees in Nigeria as of March 2024, Ambazonian authorities, who receive daily figures from their people on the ground, assert that the actual number exceeds 400,000. This disparity underscores the severity and human cost of the situation. The challenges do not end with reporting inaccuracies. The Nigerian government authorities have reportedly interfered with the UNHCR processes of identifying and registering refugees, which may explain why many refugees have reported being denied registration by UNHCR representatives on the ground in Nigeria. Tragically, even those who managed to get registered have not received any support from the UNHCR for over a year now. The little aid that was initially provided was abruptly stopped without any explanation, leaving the refugees in limbo and grappling with uncertainty and despair.
Standing at the precipice of this humanitarian disaster, the world has a choice: to ignore the needs of Southern Cameroonians, Ambazonians, refugees, or to rally behind their quest for dignity and justice. This is our moment to rise above the noise of political rhetoric and take decisive action. Let us not allow our generation to be remembered for its willful ignorance, but for its steadfast commitment to human dignity.
Meanwhile, the French Cameroonian authorities have also reportedly interfered with and restricted the operations of human rights organizations such as Amnesty International, Doctors Without Borders, and even the UNHCR within Cameroon. These organizations, which champion the cause of human dignity worldwide, face obstacles that hinder their ability to provide essential aid and bear witness to the atrocities unfolding in the sub-Saharan African region.
Voices of displacement, the struggle of Ambazonian refugees in Nigeria. Life as an Ambazonian refugee in Nigeria is fraught with unimaginable hardship, with limited access to healthcare, rampant food insecurity, and scant economic opportunities. Many find themselves in a relentless struggle for survival. Despite recent efforts from humanitarian organizations and the Ambazonian government, the aid provided falls heartbreakingly short. In my 3 years of reporting on the ground, I have witnessed heart-wrenching realities: infants succumbing to hunger, young girls turning to prostitution out of desperation, and refugees driven to suicide by the sheer hopelessness of their circumstances. It is devastating to see that many would rather face the perilous journey through places like the Darien Gap than return home.
These desperate people are not so much concerned about the identity crisis because they are actually faced with an existential threat and have completely lost trust in all governments and institutions or organizations that are expected to provide urgent humanitarian assistance, as we observe in other areas where there are crises in the world, for example, in Ukraine and in the Middle East. The question then becomes, are they less of a citizen of this world? Or is this a race issue? Or is this deliberate neglect? We're therefore calling on the United Nations, and especially the UNHCR, and all other humanitarian organizations, the displaced persons, and the refugees from the southern Cameroons deserve assistance like any other people who are victims of war. We therefore call on these organizations to be fair, to be just, and to treat the refugees of the southern Cameroons with respect and dignity, because they are also children of this universe.
Over 80% of Amazonian refugees lack adequate shelter, leaving them vulnerable to harsh weather and security threats. Alarmingly, the same number of school-aged children have no access to formal education, deeming their future prospects and continuing the vicious cycle of poverty. The gender-based violence is another grim reality, with limited protection mechanisms in place to shield these refugees from sexual assaults and domestic abuse.
In the throes of such adversity, the humanitarian spirit urges us not to overlook the plight of these displaced individuals. Accurate and transparent reporting, coupled with prioritized humanitarian assistance, is not just a logistical necessity, but a profound act of compassion. Every underreported statistic, every unassisted refugee represents a life in turmoil, a child robbed of their childhood, a family torn apart, a community devastated. The international community must respond with urgency and empathy. It is time for solidarity to transcend borders and for human compassion to drive actionable change. We must amplify the voices of the displaced, challenge the barriers to truth, and ensure that no soul is left behind in the shadows of this humanitarian crisis. Only then can we honor the intrinsic value of human life and uphold the principles of justice and equality that lie at the heart of human rights advocacy.
The Norwegian Refugee Council has shed light on one of the world's most underreported humanitarian crises, the plight of the southern Cameroons, or what they call the Anglophone crisis. The anguish faced by the Amazonian people is a heart-wrenching, and the silence surrounding their struggle is deafening. It is suggested that powerful interests, especially France's stake in the southern Cameroon's resources, could be fueling this tragic silence.
This genocidal war declared on us by the 90-year-old dictator Paul Biya on the 30th of November 2017 is raging, and our people are going through this horror in pain and in plain sight while the world watches on. This is our reality daily.
We must listen to the stories of these refugees. We must face the truths that these statistics reveal and push harder for meaningful change. We owe it to them to ensure that their voices aren't just heard but acted upon.
We are no fools on the hill. My people are no fools on the hill. let my people go, so we can rule from Cape to Cairo. You must free my people's hands, so we can rule our purpose land. I wanna know who owns the land. Who wanna know who owns the land? Okay, now listen carefully. Chinese are ruling the Chinese land. Japan is ruled by Japanese. England is governed by Englishmen. America is governed by Americans. So, Africa must be ruled by Africans. I wanna know who owns the land. We must rule from Cape to Cairo. We must rule our purpose land. I said, we wanna know who owns the land. I wanna know who owns the land. Purpose land. Hey, purpose land. Purpose land. Purpose land. We must be free. Angola want to know who owns the land. Mozambique want to know who owns the land. Namibia want to know who owns the land. I say, Soweto want to know who owns the land. Zimbabwe want to know who owns the land. African freedom fighters want to know who owns the land. Purpose land. All right. Now listen to the history. We've been here since creation. We've been here since creation. What else do you know? Since the time of sun and sand. Since the time of moon and stars. Since the time of air and seas. Since the time of men and things. We must rule from Cape to Cairo. I said we must rule our purpose land. Purpose land. Oh! Okay now. Now I want to talk to my people. Iradanima, oh, Ewolo. Yeah, Iradanima, oh, Ewolo. Epilisolo Badaneba. Now we are the first row. On the Femo, don't be right.
Good evening, fellow Amazonians, ladies and gentlemen, Vice Fru, Vice Team, Dr. Lobati. I think we're having a background sound from someone. We may want to switch off our background so we can get straight away into this post analysis. It's just going to be a chain production because Brazil is currently translating some of the things we'll be saying. I believe we all heard the president. We may just want to re-echo. We are acting the role of Aaron here this evening. So we can explain some things elaborately and help the population of Brazil to have a deeper and better understanding of what the president would have said here this evening. You're welcome, Dr. Lobati and the barristers. Good evening.
Thank you.
Nice to have you. So maybe I would like to begin with you, Barrister Fru. You were watching the president. You made
No, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't. Barrister Misia, did you watch the president?
I didn't, because I presume that what he said there was what he had said in English in the other conference.
Okay. So if you
that's what I presume too.
Okay. Actually, he said some things differently. I will explain them now to you. There's no need. But Dr. Lobati, were you watching?
I came at the tail end. So I watched at the tail end, not really from the very beginning.
Yeah, normally we're going to be analyzing this. If we're supposed to be doing a post analysis, it would have been proper for you to follow so that you'll be able to give a post analysis of it. Actually, we began it by showcasing the president's speech in Portuguese. You may want to control your sound. I think that's coming from you, Barrister Mbesi. I'll have to mute your sound. I'll give you the opportunity to speak just when we go in. So we're supposed to follow so that we can proceed. Okay, since you're the only one who followed to some extent, Dr. Lobati, let's begin from there before we move to the next set of discussions that will be transitioned. There's a video we played yesterday of Molanjo Litumbe. We're going to get into that and talk a little bit about the situation in Cameroon. Until now, we still have ministers in the Cameroons bullying the people there instead of giving them information as to the whereabouts of Bia, the impact of all of that. So talk to us, Dr. Lobati, some of the things that the president said. How does it resonate to you as an individual, and probably what do you think the people of Brazil should make of this information?
Yeah, I came towards the tail end of the message, and he was mentioning how this is a hidden tragedy, almost like to the magnitude of Rwanda, and that by the time people will be aware and know exactly what happened, they will be surprised to know that what has happened to the children of Amazonia or the former British Southern Cameroon is almost the same thing that has happened to Rwanda. And this is the point that I would like to make here. Remember that what happened in Rwanda was orchestrated and organized by France. The same thing is happening in Amazonia. Everything that has been happening to Amazonia since it was literally passed over to La République du Cameroon fraudulently has been carried out and orchestrated by the French. And so we may see French presidents like Ahidjo, we may see Biya, he's just a figurehead, and think that they are the people doing these things. They are just being used. The true orchestrators of these things are the French, who also orchestrated the genocide in Rwanda. And they have not only been doing it, say, like the two nations mentioned, Rwanda and in this case Amazonia, they have been doing it all across Francophone Africa. That is the point that needs to be highlighted and that people need to know about the wickedness and the cruelty of the French in their efforts to steal and extort the resources of other countries, and they don't care eliminating the indigenes, the citizens who live in those lands. That is the thing that I may add there. But that's what I got at the tail end when I listened.
Yeah, Barrister Fru, I think you're being cued in. So much for you to say in regard.
Yes. Before I say, I want to state the legal position. Partners in crime are equally guilty of the crime. La République du Cameroon citizens, La République du Cameroon regime has partnered with the French to commit genocide on our people. And that is why we filed the action we filed at the ICC. If La République is minded to bring in the French, because in that filing we brought in Nigeria, particularly their former head of state. Since Cameroon is not a member of the ICC, we had to tie Nigeria because Nigeria too was involved in what happened to our people. Whether directly or indirectly, he was the one who captured our leaders and illegally sent them to Cameroon to either to be slaughtered or to be, I don't know what. They are now languishing in jail for life jail. So I would argue strongly that the regime in Yaoundé, 95 of them that was cited, there are many more now. And as my senior colleague would bear with me, we keep adding the list of the culprits. They are now before the ICC. The ICC has not taken action Because I read something on social media that bothered me. I had to write. How can somebody be writing that, oh, we only file a matter and we don't follow up? We do not follow up matters in the ICC like we're in Cameroon following up matters so that we can bribe the judges. No. The ICC has the file. The ICC has not rejected the file. The ICC is looking for funding. Let all Ambazonians understand that that file is as active as it is. So, the genocide committed on our people.
That information is good. Right now, the Brazilian public is listening to you. And
yes, I understand that they are listening to me. Let the Brazilian
that I feel that is where we need to talk on it a little bit more.
Yes. Let the Brazilian public understand that the crime is being committed by the French along with the regime in La République du Cameroun in Yaoundé. And they are both guilty of the crime of genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes against our people. So that is what I had to add to what Doctor has just said. We cannot just say the French only. They are both working together. We Africans should learn to accept responsibility for our actions. La République du Cameroon took upon itself to associate with the French who are financing them, arming them, and letting them and telling them how to slaughter our people. And that's what they are doing. So while we are accusing the French, we should also accuse the regime in Yaoundé. And that is what our file in the ICC said, that we are accusing 95 people in that regime in Yaoundé, both the military and the civilian authorities, of crimes of genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes.
Amazing. Barrister Mbesia, this is where I'd like to come. The president said something, as you would link it. He said something during responding to a question. He says he understands that those who are actually like Cameroon committing these crimes against humanity on Amazonia have diplomatic relations with Brazil. But then he feels that decent politics should be that in spite of your relationship, somebody could stand up for justice for the oppressed. So I'm cueing you in there so that you know what to talk to the Brazilian public that's listening to you right now. The mic is yours. The mic is yours, Barrister Mbesia. Please talk to us.
Yeah, thank you, Paddy, and thank the president for saying what he said. See, we're trying to talk about. Are you getting me? Are you getting me?
Very loud and clear, please. Yeah, very loud and
clear. We're talking about Rwanda. You say genocide is genocide. But what was Rwanda known to be genocide? It was because the Hutus were turned against the Tutsis. These are the two groups that identified themselves there. And curiously enough, the Tutsis and the Hutus were not in the same lane with us. The Tutsis and the Hutus, they live together. They speak the same language, Kirundi. But they identify themselves as a people. So genocide is killing a people for whom they are. The Tutsis and the Hutus identify themselves just by their physical features, not by language. I was surprised. I thought there were two different groups talking different languages. Live together. Until I got to Burundi, I realized that they're speaking the same language. They live together. But you know who is a Tutsi or Hutu by their mere physical features. And so the law of genocide, which says that, shh, get out. We say that genocide is killing a people for who they are, is the law. In our own case, we know it is properly defined, it is properly explained. What is happening to us since 2016 is purely genocide. Why? Because when Yaoundé goes to bomb a village, it is not bombing the village because they have done anything, they're bombing the village because they are Anglophones, they call it. People who speak a different language, people who identify themselves with a different culture. So genocide fits squarely there. I don't care who is the author. If France participated, I don't know. But genocide has been committed. If France cautioned it, or any other government will come to light. But the people who committed the genocide, who are part of the filing that were put at the ICC, are individual Francophone Cameroonians. They are ministers. They are not French people. And so, if at the end of the day, they have to call on France to come and help them, so be it. And as the president says in his speech, as reported by you, he said, a genocide perpetrators cannot escape unpunished. But the victims are sometimes so weak that they are not going to be able to enforce the laws of genocide against genocide. They need international partners. Because genocide is a well-recognized crime, these international partners include countries who are already members of the United Nations, who are members of the ICC. Because take away the ICC, there are still jurisdictions there that can handle under the United Nations genocide. And so when the president talks to Brazil about that, he reminds them that, for example, they have an embassy there. They are reading these reports. Brazil might not prosecute them, but they have the evidence there. That makes people to think that why is this thing going unpunished? And so friendly countries, including Brazil, and in most cases, the majority of countries at the United Nations, should raise the issue there without fear or favor. Because, as it is said, it is never too late to prosecute genocide. The crimes against humanity and genocide are imprescriptible. They remain on you, hanging on you, until you die. And so that's what the president is saying. And I think that message is passing to other countries around the world. And most importantly, countries represented in Yaoundé by their embassies. So it is genocide, no matter from where it comes from. If it is cautioned by France, that be it. The perpetrators, the active perpetrators, if they think that they have defense pointing to France or the other international organization that supported them, they will do it. I remember, I don't know how France got so involved there, because Rwanda was a Belgian protectorate. They were like us. They were like us. They were a trust territory that was handed to Belgium to administer along with Burundi. And so how the French got there, I don't know. But that is not an excuse. We know the people who can point their hands for shooting, for giving the orders. None of those people is French. And so let us consider holding them accountable. And if it is important, I think it is, let the Brazilians that the president was addressing as our friend help us bring these people to book. The chips will fall where they belong if they are indicted. If the defense of Banqui is that it was ordered by France or by the United States or by any other foreign government, let them bring it there. We caught them red-handed. They confessed to it in their own words, in their own documents. And so I think the president did a good job to remind Brazil, if you are truly a friend, help us get out of this mess by carrying on your own international obligations, which is prosecuting genocide perpetrators. Because it's not allowed. I think the president of Rwanda has sought to stop that thing in Rwanda. The first thing he did when he came to power was to abolish the distinction between Tutsi and Hutu. You don't talk that in that country. You don't talk about it in Rwanda. You just abolish that language distinction between Tutsi and Hutu. And of course, they abandoned the French, which they inherited not from France, they inherited the French from Belgium. Today, the official language is English. And so, but that is not the issue. The issue is all our friends, those who sympathize with us, see in need to hold these people accountable, the perpetrators of genocide. The Jews.
We're going to get into. You have mentioned a couple of things. Hold them accountable. Help us to fight to the UN. I'll be getting back to the two of you lawyers on that aspect, on how the Brazilian people can help us. We're now making them to actualize the president's statement. We understand that a lot of diplomats they already know how to do, but we want to encourage the public, or maybe those who are like, okay, how do I help these people? So I'll get back to you on that. Hold the people accountable, which has to do with legal means and how they can help us. But there's something Dr. Fred Lobati said, which I also think that the South American community, or Latin America, that Brazil in particular, that is that occupies or has the highest black population, or what you call black population in the world. I would want us to talk to them more about French imperialism, French colonialism in Africa, so that they can really get to sync with our emotions, what we're going through with the French or the Franco-Cameroon hegemony. And I'll begin that with you, Dr. Fred Lobati.
Correct. So I will pick up where Barrister Fru was saying that Nigeria collaborated. If you guys remember, some people are observant enough to notice details. Macron was traveling across West Africa, went to Ivory Coast, Ghana, and then he came to Nigeria before the Naira 10 were picked up in Nigeria. He had audience with Buhari and claiming that he's building relationships. I personally think it was not just what was seen in the superficial. He went to Nigeria, since our budding government was at the time thriving very well in Nigeria, and negotiated with the Nigerian government to collaborate with the Republic government to pick them up. And then Nigeria collaborated with the Republic to pick up the Naira 10 and trick them. So again, you have to see the hands of the French. The French president went to Nigeria before our government was carried away. And it's the same thing. They always are subtle, hiding in the grass like a chameleon, so you don't notice them because they camouflage and change their color to look like the landscape. Yes, they were in Rwanda, just like they are even in Zaire and other places. They are not the only ones. They have collaborators because of the resources, and they were using the differences between the people, whether it's physical features or whatever, to commit the genocide that happened. There are details. If you care to read, you'll find out how French organized the whole thing from beginning to end. And we in Cameroon, particularly the former British Cameroon, we know the details of what the French have done throughout the years, using Ahidjo as the first president, deceiving us with promises that were never held, and then went further to bribe some of our founding fathers like Muna and the others. There are a lot of details I cannot bring out right now because the time is too short, using bribery and corruption to change the system in such a way that they now, using La Republique, control us in order to get the resources. That is why we have to see the hands of the French. They go like chameleons, changing their color to camouflage and look like the landscape so you don't see them. Macron went to Nigeria before the Naira 10 were picked up. The French are in it. Yes, you can pick the immediate person that is caught. Maybe you can call the banquet or whoever. Hopefully they are bold enough and that they are brought to book, and let them be bold enough to name the French. Yes, but the French do control them. Even the BIA himself does not act independent. They must go to France and give an account and give accountability of their actions and get permission from France to do anything. Even ministers of French Cameroon sign an agreement with France to take office. And there are examples of that. That is what I'm talking about.
That's amazing. Barrister Fru, please.
Yes, to add to what Doctor has just said, the French actively participated in the genocide in Amazonia. How? Do you know that the French, after the Americans put an arms embargo on La République de Cameroon, the French built an arm depot in Equatorial Guinea and kept supplying La République de Cameroon with sophisticated weapons. They even supplied them with some drones. We have evidence that some white people, some white Frenchmen were seen in Amazonia during the war, during this war of independence. And France kept financing La République de Cameroon, supplying arms to La République de Cameroon through that arm depot in Equatorial Guinea. It was later blown up. I don't know who did it, but it was blown up, and that is ample evidence that France was actively working with the other partner, La République de Cameroon, to commit genocide on the people of the southern Cameroon and Amazonia. And the French participation was quite direct. The French made no bones about it. Their pronouncements in Yaoundé and elsewhere were all geared towards eliminating or killing our people. And even as we speak, the French are still actively involved in military advising and military intervention in the war against Amazonia by La République de Cameroon. They may not be on the field, but they are in what they call Coparang, the military Coparang in Yaoundé. They are working hands in glove with the Cameroon military against our people. There's no way that we can extricate the French from the crimes that have been committed on our people by La République de Cameroon. No matter what kind of legal jargon we use, the evidence is clear that they were participants. That is what I wanted to add to what Doctor said. Paddy, are you there?
Yeah, so I thank you for that contribution, Barrister Fru. So this is where I want you both to come in, and I'll still stay with you, Barrister Fru. We're now seeking for help from the Brazilian community, understanding politics the way it should be. How do you expect, from a legal standpoint, how can Brazil help us legally, either through diplomacy or by a case? That's the explanation I want you people to explain, because this message is currently being interpreted to them. Explain extensively and clearly in a way they can understand.
Brazil should take our case to the General Assembly of the United Nations. That's first point. And plead our case to the United Nations, because the United Nations seems to be looking the other way. The second thing that Brazil can do is Brazil can sue La République de Cameroon on our behalf in the ICJ. Not the ICC, because there's already a case in the ICC, but in the ICJ. So those are the two things that Brazil can do to help the Southern Cameroon and Amazonia. Brazil is a very respectable country in South America. They have the largest population in South America. They have the largest descendants of African people in South America. Therefore, they should be concerned with what happens to people of the homeland. And if the world is looking away from what is happening in Amazonia, Brazil should be our savior, our friend who came to us in times of need. They should plead our case in the UN and get us, because we have still not been decolonized. were still under the yoke of the anti-colonialism that was supposed to have gone away. I mean, that was supposed to be operated by the UN during the days when the trust territories were being given their independence. The French and the British, whatever they did to us is still unknown. So Brazil should also liaise with the British diplomats to get their position on this matter and then proceed to the United Nations General Assembly so that we can be admitted. We have our independence, but we don't have a seat in the United Nations. Brazil can plead that case for us. Brazil can, after talking to the British diplomats, to find out why they abandoned us in the middle of the sea before they proceed to ICJ to sue La République du Cameroon. And why not bring the United Nations to answer as to what happened to the people of the Southern Cameroons during the time of decolonization. That is what, as friends and brothers, they can do for us.
That's amazing. Barrister Mesia, please.
Yeah, again, thank you for giving me the opportunity. But before I answer that question, let me clarify something. See, people don't understand. When we say that we have a case pending at the ICC, most people don't know what it is about. They don't know there's a case there. But how did we get there? By my own records, since this crisis started, crisis transformed into war in 2017, up to date, there are about 7 complaints pending at the ICC, filed by different groups and individuals of Ambazonian origin. Among them, for example, Akeremuna filed one, urging the ICC to take action.
It was dismissed.
Pardon?
It was dismissed.
Let me make my point, please. Let me make my point. None of those cases was taken over. I was trying to say there are 7. Akeremuna filed one. The former chief of the CDN filed one. But none of these petitions filed by Akeremuna and 6 others ever bore any fruit. Why? Because the ICC could excuse itself by saying that Cameroon is not a member country of the ICC. They have not signed up to the Rome Statute. And so they refuse to take action. Then we file one, which is what I'm trying to explain. So even Sanso will listen to me.
Now let me ask a quick question before you move forward there. I have to ask you a question, Barrister Mesia. Why would Akeremuna, and what was the filing of Akeremuna? Akeremuna was filing against who? Against Biya or against who? What was it? What? Because we know his style.
No, I have his complaint. I have a copy of his complaint. But the fact is,
so what is it? That's what we want to know.
Please don't waste your time there. Let me explain the point that is important here. We're going to go. I said it was not acted upon. Just like the one authority who was chief of the CDN. Why was it not acted upon? It was no lack of content. The simple reason was that they had complained against Cameroon. The ICC said that ICC was not, Cameroon was not a member state of the ICC. That was to tell you how, I was trying to explain now, which you are trying to cut me short. When we write that this shortcoming, we filed one, which they received and acknowledged receipt. But the one that we filed was different from the one of Akere and any other person. What made it different? In our own filing, we brought in Nigeria as an active participant in the genocide. Nigeria is a member state of the ICC. We cited, in fact, if they tell you that there are 98 accused persons, some of them are Nigerians. We cited people who had broken the law and crossed to Nigeria to catch Sako with the cooperation of the Nigerian government, which was a breach of the law, and so on and so forth. That's what is important. Why our own application was accepted? Because you've talked about Nigeria. I'm trying to say Nigeria is really linked as even a defendant at the ICC when it comes to this genocide. They are linked officially in the filings that we have done. So So they are accused, direct accused, not indirect accused, direct accused by the filing that we did to the ICC. And so that's what is important. After having said that, we now you ask what Brazil can do to us, because the president was addressing Brazil. Yeah, Brazil has a large black population, but that's not the most important thing. Brazil is one of the largest countries in Latin America. It's a powerful country, you cannot ignore. Above that, Brazil is a member of the United Nations. As a country, Brazil, if they so wish, they can assume universal jurisdiction in this matter. In other words, they can, by their own law, so prosecute genocide in Brazil. If we are concerned, there are Brazilians, there are Cameroonians, Amazonians in Brazil who can serve as adequate complainants. That is doable. Brazil, as a country, can go to the United Nations General Assembly, just like South Africa took the case of Palestine to the ICJ. Why did South Africa do that? It was the war in Gaza. The war in Gaza showcased genocide beyond expectation. They can do that. But the International Court of Justice will not come and prosecute the case. If the issue is judgment, that judgment will be sent down to the Security Council. Because the Security Council, even not being a member, the Security Council has the powers to indict a country that has committed genocide. Brazil can do that through the ICJ. Brazil, as a member of the United Nations, may not even go to the ICJ. They are free to invoke this matter at the Security Council. And once the Security Council takes it up, if the resolution passes, it is handed to the court, to the ICC. They will no longer escape from it. France will not escape from it. Whoever is a partner in the crime is going to be held accountable. That is what Brazil can do. We're talking about genocide. That's what Brazil can do if we're limiting to genocide. But overall, in our case, Brazil as a country can still table this matter, the whole matter of Amazonia, the colonization or whatever thing we call it, before the ICJ. It is your right as a member state to decide on these shortcomings of the United Nations General Assembly. That is what happened with the case of Namibia. South Africa refused to leave Namibia until they were sued at the ICJ that the administration of Namibia was illegal. They issued a judgment that was binding on South Africa, and they left, and Namibia became free. And so those are the 4 different ways by which Brazil, that we're talking about today, can help us not solve only the genocide problem, but also settle the whole idea of this ambassador decision process. That is doable. They can do it as a member of the United Nations. They can do it through the Security Council, through the General Assembly, or even in their own courts, as far as genocide is concerned. Any country can assume jurisdiction over, universal jurisdiction over genocide. That is what Belgium did over the Chadian president who fled to Senegal. He was never in Belgium. Belgium, I said, somebody complained that Belgium decided to indict him right in Belgium and said, send this man here for trial. And Senegal did not have the way to send him. They invoked it. They said, well, let us try him. They just want justice to be done. They constituted a court with the African Union and tried that guy, even though he died, but they carried him on a wheelchair to the court. So those are the avenues open to Brazil or any other willing country that might help us. Over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Barrister Mbesia. We definitely going to come back to you both to conclude on Brazil's involvement and what they can do legally. You've mentioned 4. I like the way you explained the 4 things and you gave a backdrop. But this is something that's also of great concern here. It has to do with diplomatic relations between Brazil and La République du Cameroon, the stakes involved. If we have to provide incentive to Brazil, why should Brazil jeopardize? Because countries are currently taking blocks making friendships. You had South Africa was bold enough, you mentioned earlier, was bold enough to ignore whatever relations they might have with France and Britain or whoever, and they took side with Palestine. We're seeing the fruits today. But then, what will be that thing that would encourage Brazil as a nation and the Brazilian government to boldly want to consider their friendship and do some things with Amazonia to that extent? I think we'll start with Dr. Lobatin, then you can contribute, Barrister Mbisia, Barrister Pro.
Okay, so I don't know exactly how much of the details of the history of the Cameroons that the Brazilian population know. I don't want to go into a long detail here, but generally, to summarize it all, the thing is justice is superior to injustice. Truth is superior to falsehood. And good is superior to bad. Just as light is superior to darkness. That is a motivation for the Brazilians to do that which is right by Amazonia. The history of the Amazonia shows that the Europeans, of course, went to Africa to get our resources for their thriving industries. And so they partitioned Africa, and the Germans had us. And then, because the Germans lost the First World War, those countries that thought they had, the European nations that won the war, Britain, in this case France, they took the territory of the Germans and divided it among themselves, and that's how Cameroon was partitioned. And a portion went to the British, the English side, and a larger portion, went to the French side. That's where we were divided. But unfortunately, you had a second war, and this time, the European nations were literally broken down and devastated, were heavily indebted and poor. And the countries that won the war, the United States and Britain, that came in, the United States and Russia that came in to support Britain to crush the Germans, which, the French were literally overtaken by the Germans. They insisted that the United Nations trust territories must prepare their colonies for independence. And we, who were formerly German territory, were the League of Nations territory. We did not belong either to Britain or to France. We were taken away from the Germans and belonged but to the League of Nations that mutated into the United Nations. So we belong to the United Nations. Whatever the case, so they were compelled to prepare us towards independence. And these countries that were heavily indebted reluctantly did that. They did not want to, because they wanted our resources, especially now that they were extremely poor. So that's where the British went together behind the scenes and connived with the French to pretend that they gave independence as long as they continue controlling our resources. And unfortunately, the situation of the children of Amazonia was like the unfortunate situation of the grass that the elephants trampled on, in the sense that we had the political maturity to stand on our thoughts and choose where we want to belong. The parts of the northern Cameroons that were homogeneous, controlled by the Alamidos, were bribed by the British to join Nigeria that the British would control. But we who could decide, the British and the French agreed to exchange hands. So Britain took bribe. And we voted thinking on Ahijo's false promises that it would be better to be with La République du Cameroun because they have suppressed our option of independence. That's how we found ourselves with La République du Cameroun. And the French now have been basically doing everything to destroy our people, even kill all of them because they want the resources of the land. That is the history of what has happened. Now, in that thing called the United Nations, you have dominant countries. The so-called UN Security Council, you have the United States, you have Britain in there, and France in there, Russia and China. And so the US is very powerful. Britain always goes with the US, and France will go most often with the US. And the US will try to, go behind the scenes and tell Russia and China to abstain. So basically, the US has a big voice there. And the US tries to eat the resources in the Middle East. And they allow the French to eat the resources in Francophone sub-Saharan Africa, which is why you heard Biden say that his foreign policy on Africa will be to collaborate with the French to solve problems in sub-Saharan Africa. So what I mean is you cannot expect Biden's policy to be different from Macron's policy if he is collaborating with Macron. And so the UN Security Council that has the power to make decisions is compromised. And the other nations are only there in the United Nations. They don't have any big voice. They just participate in the UN General Assembly and say things and vote. But these powerful five decide. So now, just a quick summary there, because to give the whole details will take hours. But how can Brazil help us? The way they can help us is to raise an alarm about the injustice and falsehood happening to an innocent people. A people who just happen to have been blessed to be in a land full of resources where others are coveting it, they want it, so they do not mind killing all of them, destroying them in order to extract the resources, and which is why they are committing genocide. So Brazil may not be able to overcome the United States, but Brazil can raise it up as a principle of standing for that which is right, for that which is just, that which is good, that which is truthful and honest. And at the end, I believe that Brazil will win, because change is coming. Those powers that are now very powerful, controlling the UN Security Council, seem to be the most powerful nations on earth, will lose their international preeminent positions with time. I don't have time to go into it, but you can see it in the demographic change of the earth. We are now 8 billion human beings on earth. The largest population at this time, Asia, that means China was the most populous. It went over to India last year. Most people didn't know, but India is the most populous nation. And by 2100, sub-Saharan Africa will be the most populous part of the earth, which will constitute almost 45% of the population on planet Earth, which means that almost every second human being will be a black, flat-nosed sub-Saharan African like myself. And these very powerful nations we are talking about, if you look demographically, their populations only keep shrinking. And what I'm trying to say is that the future is on our side. And that frightens these people, which is one of the reasons they are doing everything possible to reduce the birth rate, to reduce the population of the sub-Saharan African people. They can call it birth control. They bribe even the Muslims in the north to catch us, our children crossing the Sahara, to go to Europe and kill them silently without anybody talking about it. They come in different ways to reduce the population. But whatever the case, they will not be able to prevent the demographic change. So when Brazil stands with us, the future will be in their favor. I'll just summarize it right there.
Okay, Barrister Fru, you wanted to make a contribution. Go ahead, please.
Yes. La République du Cameroon needs Brazil more than Brazil needs La République du Cameroon. First point. Second point, in matters of genocide, diplomacy can be sacrificed to bring the perpetrators of genocide to book. In the days, in 1994, when the genocide took place in Rwanda, the United Nations issued a communique. Never again will it happen on planet Earth. And it's happening in southern Cameroon, Ambazonia, and nobody is talking. Brazil will gain a lot of respectability around the globe if they denounce the genocide that is happening in the southern Cameroon and is perpetrated by La République du Cameroon and its collaborators and the co-conspirators like the French. Brazil will gain a lot of respect around the world if they bring the case, the genocidal case, to the United Nations Security Council and let them debate it and say whether there is no genocide in La République in Ambazonia committed by La République du Cameroon. And this is what happened in 1994. The United Nations was dragging its feet until more than 1 million people were slaughtered in Rwanda. And they made a declaration, never again. Well, it is happening again, and everybody is burying his head in the sand. Let Brazil take his head up and denounce what is happening in the southern Cameroon, Ambazonia, irrespective of their diplomatic relations with La République du Cameroon. As a matter of fact, La République du Cameroon needs Brazil more than Brazil needs them. And I don't see how La République du Cameroon can afford to lose or to lose the diplomatic ties with Brazil, because Brazil has called them to order on this issue of genocide. Genocide is a heinous crime around the world, and no diplomacy will replace genocide. Therefore, I argue that Brazil stands a better chance of denouncing this thing, this genocide, in the United Nations Security Council than most nations in the world. Most nations in the world have one reason or the other. Well, I want to talk about something about what the doctor said about the United States and France. Yes, the United States is a partner of the French in Europe. They are in NATO together. They are in G7 together. They are this and that. But the United States also understand that genocide cannot be tolerated anywhere on this planet. And they know that. So I don't see that when the chips are down, the United States will not back Brazil on this one, just because they have some kind of relations with the French. Thank you very much.
By Sambesia, please.
Again, I think this is what I can say. We're talking today because the president is giving a press conference in Portuguese. He's addressing it to the Brazilians who speak Portuguese. And I've said earlier, Brazil is one of the largest countries in Latin America. But in addition to that, they speak a language, Portuguese. Portugal is also part of the United Nations. Even in Africa, you have Angola, they speak Portuguese. We have Cape Verde, they speak Portuguese. We have Mozambique, they speak Portuguese. They have Sao Tome, they speak Portuguese. And even East Timor. So the president is not just addressing Portuguese, he's addressing this conference to the Portuguese-speaking population of the world. But today, among those people, the largest one in terms of population is Brazil. What we know is that the president is not talking to the Brazilian government. He's talking to the Brazilian people and institutions that are really sympathetic to our case. These people have a vote in their country. They can influence their government. And so your question was, what will we do to make them turn their cables to favor us? I don't know what we can do. Even if I knew, it is not here they will come and announce that type of strategy right here. The fact is that the president has been able to break this cordon, has ceased from talking only to the French, to the English, and is not talking to the Portuguese. If it comes to what we will give to enable the Portuguese, because anything we're talking about, the ICC, the ICJ, the United Nations, is about governments. Only the government of Brazil will act on behalf of the Brazilians. So we hope that the people who are listening to us, including Brazilian officials, including Brazilian government departments that are listening to our plea, can cause their government to act. I don't know what type of agreement they have with Yaoundé, but there's always something to give when it comes to real life, when it comes to crime. There's also much you can hide. And when it is truth, there's no way you can hide the truth. We just talked about what happened at the United Nations when South Africa, of all, decided to change the game by not just talking, but by suing Israel. The United States, Great Britain, and most of those countries that are supposed to be, in fact, the 5 permanent members of the United Nations, and most particularly the United States and France, they were caught pants down. Even in that court there was no way they could come out to defend the evil that Israel is doing to the people of Palestine. And so we can only hope that that is what will happen. As to what we shall give in return, that shall be left as a diplomatic discussion between the government and the Brazilian authorities. But just for the sake of humanity, just for being human, to say, look, you cannot do this to another human being. Brazil has a leverage, like all these other Portuguese countries, including the English language countries that have listened to us when we speak, including the French language people who have listened to us when we're speaking. They can make this coalition and make even what Yaoundé or France or Yaoundé with their allies think it is an impossibility to become a reality. Because there's no way you can hide a crime. There's only so much you can do. Even you find out that trial at The Hague against Israel, the United States could not even come out to defend them. That's their greatest ally in terms of arms supply, in terms of moral support, in terms of finances. They support Israel wholeheartedly. Go ask Harris, what shall we do? Well, so they come now, they've moderated their thing. Say, well, we want to think about two-state federation. They say, okay, Israel, you're defending yourself, but your defense must be proportionate. That's not what America would have said just 2, 3 years ago. And so, again, we hope the Brazilian population, the Portuguese-speaking world, is listening to us. We have already analyzed how the Brazilian state or the government can act. We hope they will do it, and then we'll see some fruits born out of it. Over to you.
Okay, yeah. We need to move on to something else right now. But before we move into that, there's a video we played yesterday. I want to bring that video. It's going to help us really transition into this very important aspect of our conversation. I think this is something, as we're concluding this phase with the Brazilian people, it's something that's important for the Brazilian community to listen to and understand aspects of our historicity and legality. Then when we come back, we'll give final statements to the Brazilian community and then move on to what is happening in the Cameroons and the impact of the war today. Let's look at this, please.
Another person who has views of his own is Molanjo Litumbe, who feels that the 1961 reunification was built on a faulty foundation. He was one of the speakers during the colloquium. When George Kelong and I spoke to him, we first wanted to know whether the event in Buea meant anything to him.
The winning members of the World War II designed that to stop any causes of a world war, the United Nations, to which all the nations of the world should belong, should draw up a constitution which will ensure that any complaints are nipped on the bud and there would be no Third World War. So they drew up a constitution which binds all member states who apply and are admitted to the United Nations. One of those states is La République du Cameroon, which had gained independence on 1st of January 1960 and applied and was admitted a member of the United Nations on 20th of September 1960. At the material time, we in southern Cameroon were still a UN trust territory, firmly under British colonial administration. If we were one country with La République at that time, there would have been no necessity for the UN to come and consult us in a plebiscite on 11th of February 1961 to inquire which big brother we would join, whether La République du Cameroun or Nigeria. This establishes that we were a separate country quite apart from La République du Cameroon.
But we decided to join La République du Cameroun.
When you say we decided, the UN came and asked British Cameroonians, since you cannot raise sufficient resources to mount a sovereign independent government, which of these two suitors would you like to marry, Nigeria or La République du Cameroon? It turned out that the girl said, I would prefer this gentleman. That by itself is not an act of marriage. It is at that point that the man preferred starts initiating the process of matrimony.
No, but you are talking here about a gentleman who already had a status, so the girl naturally comes in and fits into that status.
But the United Nations is the overriding law. And that provides that in order for you to get married, you go before a civil status registrar with witnesses. And if you accept the type of marriage you want, he is the one authorized by law to declare you husband and wife. If you just see a pretty girl from the university and you say, come and stay with me, when we graduate, we can then get married. You can even be performing the customary bedmatics of a married man. But you are not married because you have not gone through the statutory provisions by the Cameroon government that if you want to be married to a woman, go through this process.
But the United Nations endorsed the results of the plebiscite of February 1961.
That was the father of the girl saying, I have heard you, my daughter, as to the choice you wish to make. That is all. The United Nations provides for this in its constitution, Article 102. That says that if a member state of the UN, as La République had been since 20th of September 1960, wishes to join some other territory, he says you are free to do that. But at the point when you are entering the UN, you enter with your international boundaries. If you are going to join some other territory, this will cause a variation of your boundaries, which the UN has got to adjust because the Secretariat is the registry of all independent countries throughout the world.
Molanjo Litumbe, from the way you talk, it's as if you've never recognized this union.
No, I have told them that you could live with a woman, but that does not necessarily mean you are married.
What do you make of the Fumban Conference and the constitution that was adopted later?
When Britain had announced publicly that Nigeria was going to become independent as from 1st of October 1960, the Colonial Office hurriedly prepared a constitution for southern Cameroons because on 1st of October, the governor of Nigeria, Sir James Robertson, was to surrender power to Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe. The British government could no longer administer the UN Trust territory, for which they signed an agreement with the Trusteeship Council on 13th of December 1946. They could not hand it over to the sovereign Nigerian government. So on 12th of September 1960, the Colonial Office in London prepared a special constitution for Southern Cameroons called the Southern Cameroon Order in Council 1960. It was put before the British Parliament in Whitehall in London on 16th of September 1960, and it became law on 1st of October 1960, the day Nigeria was granted independence. That constitution provided for Southern Cameroons the post of Commissioner for Cameroons. He more or less inherited the powers hitherto vested in the expatriate Governor General of Nigeria. They took those powers and vested them on the Commissioner for Cameroons, a white man. The Constitution provided for two houses of parliament, a House of Chiefs and a House of Assembly, an independent judiciary, and several others. But it reserved certain powers to the Colonial Office in London. Those powers were foreign affairs and defense, and to some extent taxation. So until the end of the trust over Southern Cameroons, the government of Dr. John Guffoncha had no constitutional authority to discuss the foreign affairs of Southern Cameroons.
Sir, the union has been on for
53 years.
What if somebody tells you that you are now crying over spilled milk?
No. If you lose your shirt to a thief, and he's been wearing it, and then suddenly you discover it on him, and you say, this is my shirt. He says, but old boy, I've been wearing this shirt. My sweat has been in it. Does that absolve him from the crime of stealing?
But we are talking here about a family in which very few people are disgruntled.
No, I don't know when you talk of very few people are disgruntled. I can assure you that if that position was genuine, what is the problem then that we are discussing about? Cameroon will just come and say, well, if I had to agree with this girl who also loves me, if your analogy is correct, let us get together, draw up ourselves a contract of union, embodying what both of us agree, and file that at the UN. That resolves the matter. That is why my strong recommendation has always been, if La République loves Southern Cameroon, and Southern Cameroon, according to you, the majority love La République du Cameroon, what stops you inviting Southern Cameroons to go into an agreement acceptable to both of them, sign it, and file it at the United Nations? The matter is ended.
Where we stand now, 53 years since the 1961 reunification, where do you think we should go from here?
I am not opposed to La République du Cameroon joining Southern Cameroons. In fact, it's a bigger country, and a bigger country is better to play with. But Amadou Ahidjo and Tafawa Balewa, before the plebiscite, they were summoned at the United Nations. They were asked, supposing these people vote Tafawa Balewa to join Nigeria, what are you going to offer them? Tafawa Balewa said, I have the Eastern region, the Northern region, the Western region, and the federal capital of Lagos, where all these regions converge in parliament. We have been with Southern Cameroon for the past 40 years. If they also wish to join us, they too will be a region with the same perquisites as any of the other regions, and we will all meet in the federal parliament in Lagos. That is my offer. So they said, thank you very much, Alhaji Tafawa Balewa. Alhaji Amadou Bello, what would you do if this Southern Cameroon, following a plebiscite, decide to join you? He said, well, these people are my brothers. We have grown up in different cultural heritage. The British tradition, we French. If they decide to join the independent state of La République du Cameroon, we will discuss the matter with them on the basis of equality. That I envisage creating a federation of two states equal in status. And we will then meet in the federal parliament in Yaoundé. So the UN came here on the 11th of February, 1961, and offered Southern Cameroonians the two alternatives. If you decide to join Nigeria, you will be a region in Nigeria. If you decide to join La République, you will be a federation of two states equal in status. In other words, you will continue to do your own things the way you want. La République will do the things the way they want, and you will meet at the apex in Yaoundé. It was on that basis that the majority of Southern Cameroonians, following the bad experience of the Igbos, because we were administered by Nigeria through Enugu, the Igbos, they held all the top positions. The people in Southern Cameroon had nothing. Even in the market, they controlled it. A woman will want a piece of cloth, they'll just cut it and pay. Where are you going to complain? So that animosity prompted people to vote heavily to join La République, because they had been promised a federation of two states equal in status. Where is the state of Southern Cameroon now? It has been swallowed. How do you do that? When the terms of association had been publicly stated by the president of La République du Cameroon, it is all documentary. Whatever I'm telling you now, I could prove it chapter and verse. It is not of my imagination.
Now that we are talking about national unity and integration, what specifically are the kinds of things that you would propose that should be done now to remedy the situation?
The terms of joining were a power-sharing arrangement, not annexation as we have it. We are like a conquered people. It's like when Hitler overran France in the Second World War. He used Frenchmen to administer the country. So even as it is now, I don't know whether you are a Southern Cameroonian or you come from another part of the country, but he can recruit somebody here and make him prime minister. But he is answerable to him, and he holds office at his pleasure. That is not participating in government. So working for La République du Cameroon, as I saw the masquerade at the colloquium, apart from, I would say, one learned professor, he's now retired. Everyone else who spoke in favor of the status quo is on the payroll of the person who is doing it. We don't have any rights at all. Everything now is rammed down our throat from Yaoundé. That is not the basis on which we joined, and I am alive and telling you this.
Even in this era of decentralization?
What is decentralization when everything emanates from Yaoundé and then they just tell you do this, do this? I am about 6-7 years older than the president. I am still alive because I have unfinished work to do. All my contemporaries have ascended to heaven.
And how soon will you complete that work?
You should help me to complete the work in your own best interest, and I would urge you, please, to report what I say faithfully so that all Cameroonians can have it.
Wow. This presentation by Molanjo Litumbe, I would say, was epic, and for generations to come we might need to have that to even play for students in schools to listen to. It was, to me, is the simplicity and clarity of his explanation that frees the world. And I thought that bringing it up and conclude our relationship with the Brazilian press this afternoon is very important, so that the historicity and legality of us as a people is reiterated once more. I am handing the mic to you, Dr. Lobati, before the two barristers, so that we get to look at this again and then move on to the situation we be at. Please, Dr. Lobati, talk to us.
So what I can appeal to our Brazilian friends is that change is a constant. Change is the only thing that remains constant. There will always be change. The world has always changed from face to face. So what we are going through right now will eventually change. I personally believe for the better, in spite of all the wars. We'll have some bad wars like you see in the Middle East right now. It can happen and break out anywhere else on planet Earth, but at the end of the day, things will turn out for the better. So the people that now appear to be preeminent, the most powerful, make the most noise, they will disappear from the scene with time. I don't know how long that time is going to be. It's not going to be like 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, but with time, they're going to disappear from the scene. So let's have a view of the long run. We want to be good, great friends with the Brazilians, and we appeal that they should stand on the side of truthfulness, justice, righteousness, all that is good, and take up our cause as much as they are able to, as individuals and collectively as a nation, to bring it up to the conscience of everybody on planet Earth. That's my appeal to our Brazilian friends.
Paddy, you may want to know that that is my professional father. That man, Molanjo Litumbe, gave me my first job when I left the United States back to Cameroon in Douala, in Akintola Williams. He is one of the most learned accountants I've ever met in my whole life. And he has reduced the Southern Cameroon's case in very understandable language, and I think the Brazilians will learn a lot about the Southern Cameroon's case just from listening to Molanjo Litumbe. I have listened to that video over and over and over, and I have a copy in my archives. And I tell you, even in death, I will glorify my father, who is now sitting by the side of the Lord. Having said that, Brazilians, my dear country people of the world, you are one of the most powerful nations on earth. And we, as Southern Cameroonians, suffering under the yoke of La République de Cameroun and France, are coming to you for help. The Brazilian people, the Brazilian institutions, please make your name now by coming out to denounce what is happening to the people of the Southern Cameroons and Amazonia, and bring it to the limelight to your colleagues in the General Assembly of the United Nations, and more especially to the Security Council of the United Nations. We will have to do our own part of the job by talking to the various big boys of the Security Council to listen to our case from the Brazilians. We will, in the background, also do our work. And I think the Brazilians are intelligent people enough, and they will do the needy for us. We thank them in advance, and may God be our helper.
That's amazing there. But Barrister Team, please. You want to
Yes, I think.
Yep.
I think that I call it documentary is so important. Are you getting me?
Very loud.
Very loud.
Because assisted by some, it's just mouth shaking. Okay.
No. I'm hearing that. You're 5 on 5.
Okay. So what I can say about that is, Mulan Jolly Trumbe, he said all that. But like any other human being, he is dead. But he has left behind us the history put out in the simplest language that can be understood by anybody who is interested. And I will plead with you, if it is possible, with the modern technology that we have, it is possible for us to put this thing in different languages. In French, in English, it is already in English, in Portuguese, and any other language of the people who think can listen to us. That might help to educate the world in the simplest language that they want to. We will not need 30 minutes on the TV station or an hour's debate for the world to understand us. And the simple question he asks is, it's a simple question. Where are the terms of the joining? Where are the terms of the joining? We should equally describe that as the agreement of the joining. What do we agree? I refers to it all the time. Article 102 of the Charter. And all of us call it the Treaty of Union. It's possible. But Article 102 that Mullah sings there, he has even put it in his own words. The agreement. Article 102 talks of treaties and agreements. If you enter into an agreement with somebody else as a member of the United Nations, deposit a copy of that agreement with the Secretariat. He asks, where's the agreement? I think everybody agrees. The plebiscite that journalist was asking was not a joining. 11 February was not joining. It was the expression of a wish. 1608 was not a joining. It was to lay down the conditions under which we would join. 16085. Where are the terms of the joining? If there are no terms of the joining, as it says, you woo a girl, you're a suitor, you pay bride price, you're not yet married. Even in Cameroon law, you can go and pay the bride price. It differs with different tribes. If you give all the goats, kill all the cows, that does not constitute a marriage until you go before the civil status registrar and pay and do what they are supposed to do. Which until recently, the only money you spend there was 100 francs communal stamp. If you don't fulfill that act, you're not married. And Cameroon law states, any money received by form of dowry or any gifts are depositories. If you don't go to perform that act finally before the civil status registrar, you can ask for your money simply. You will not be married. So I think Moran Jolly Tumbe has expressed this problem in the simplest language that any reasonable human being can understand. Even the dead people can understand that. And so I plead again, let us find a way by which you can make that audio, that presentation, into different languages. That might help us, and not even just might, it will help us. For the Brazilians and for any other person who has listened to us, who has any doubts about what we are fighting for, to understand our cause. That message facilitates the journey. It is so clear. It is not you and me sitting here talking grammar or somebody talking French. It's spoken the simplest language that anybody can understand. Even Paul Biya in his deathbed can understand, even though he refused to understand. And so that's what I have for it. We hope Brazil, the Brazilian authorities, that is the government, not the people, we're talking to the people, wish that this translates into talking to the government of Brazil and in other countries around the world. Over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Barrister Mbesia. We're now going to get into what I know a lot of Ambazonians are waiting would have been done, and I want to believe that the Brazilian community is very pleased with the explanations that we would have given. I just would like to remind Ambazonians that are there that we are getting to this next phase of our conversation this evening, Ambazonia this week. But tonight we'll also be raising resources for the 2 press conferences. We're yet to comply with our side of the bargain by inviting journalists from different parts of the world to participate and get to interview the president twice. So I'm calling on all those, maybe if you're in different forums and different platforms, we're going to be sending a Zoom link out like right now. I'm going to make sure the Zoom link out is activated. You can start joining the Zoom, but donations can be placed. For those who did not donate, ABC actually pioneered 1st October celebrations globally in many different ways, even at the home front, in many different accounts, the press conferences. We need to do that today. It's quite important and quite imperative and quite urgent. But again, after the break, we want to find out what is happening in Yaoundé and why Atanganji and the other lawyers are bullying everyone else to stay quiet in the face of genocide that is happening in Ambazonia, and also the fact that Biya is nowhere to be found. Nobody's answering the question, but everybody is being bullied. We'll be back after the break.
Stand with Ambazonia. Empower ABC Amba TV. This Saturday, we are calling on Ambazonians around the world to unite and uplift ABC Amba TV, Ambazonian Broadcasting Corporation. In this critical time of war, ensuring the station's survival is more important than ever. But what does ABC Amba TV truly represent for Ambazonia?
At the heart of Ambazonia's war of independence, ABC Amba TV stands as a beacon. Years of recolonization, annexation, and French Cameroon's oppressive occupation of the southern Cameroon's Ambazonia have led to our exclusion. Our identity was hidden, our history distorted, our sovereignty denied.
Queen of England is aware that the British Southern Cameroons were never a colony under France.
Since its inception in 2018, ABC Amba TV has been our lifeline.
Months of diplomacy have failed to resolve the crisis as fear grows over an imminent Russian invasion of Ukraine.
Our work in the dark is our chance to tell our stories to the world, to give voice to the voiceless and broadcast the truth of our struggle.
We are serious about executing this revolution.
It has become a vital arm of our government in wartime, making diplomacy achievable and showcasing our untold stories.
ABC Amba, you guys know how important ABC is for this, our quest for international recognition.
This Saturday, your donations can make a world of difference. Every bit of support helps keep our stories alive, our presence known, and our fight in the global conversation.
We
the moment they notice that we are no longer on air, they think that, oh, maybe La Republique have succeeded. This is about Ambazonia. One thing we must always remember.
Where would we be without ABC Amba TV? Let's ensure we never have to find out.
A revolution is a temporary state of insanity to bring about sanity.
Mobilize, donate, stand with Ambazonia. Donate to ABC Amba TV.
Together, let's write the next chapter of our history.
It is better to light the candle than to curse the dark.
Support ABC Amba TV campaign. Ambazonia Independence, voice for the voiceless. Mobilize for change.
There is an important aspect which I think I would like you people to talk before we get into the bigger issue. A very, very important aspect, Dr. Fred Lobatia. I think I should begin that with you. It's about the need for every Ambazonian to be involved at this minute that we're talking, so we can not just be much more viable to relate with the journalists with good terms, but also so that we can get this platform. Think about what will be happening in Ambazonia right now if this platform goes desolate. So Dr. Lobati, I'll begin with you on that, and then Barrister Fu before Barrister Mbesia. Please, doctors.
Yeah, our fellow brothers and sisters, Ambazonian children, we all know the injustice that has happened to us. The tragedy. We each have a story of how our opportunities were taken away in our homeland. That's why we are abroad. I can narrate mine personally. If everything was going great, we would have been home doing wonderfully well, and nobody could get us to come out. So this is our opportunity and our means of expressing ourselves and telling everyone, our home, our children, our friends, people in the home front, people in the diaspora, about the truth of what has happened to us. And this is very easy to do. The Amazonian nation constitutes almost 8-10 million people. Of those, over 4 or 5 million are abroad. And to keep this channel open, if only 1,000 people would give $10 a month, there will be no financial problem keeping us informed as we need to. If only 500 people would give $20 a month, we will have sufficient funds to run every activity that ABC does, and even more. So I'm appealing to each one of us, if you believe in what we are doing, if you believe that what we're saying is true, and if you think that we are truly defending your cause, that you should participate and contribute, not just once, but regularly, if possible. And I would recommend every month to keep ABC running very well. And we think as time goes on, ABC will improve on its programming, not only to inform our people, but also to educate our people. ABC is going to stay and remain, because as time goes on, La Republique is going to phase out. And we are going to get our independence. So as time goes on, ABC will settle in our homeland and continue its work right there. That's what I would tell right now. I would encourage everybody to do their very best to support ABC financially.
Yeah, Barrister Fu, please.
Yes, thank you, Paddy. That is a very important question. We all need to put our hands in our pockets to ensure that this network stays alive. I thank Dr. Lobati for the leadership he has so far done to bring the ABC to where it is. He is the pillar behind the financing of ABC, and it will be disingenuous for most of us not to participate today, to at least give something to ABC to clear the bills, for particularly for this interview and other things. So we are ready, I will give my own small whatever I can afford, and life goes on. But ABC must be alive. We thank God for ABC. Without ABC, I don't know where we would have been in this revolution. This is something that God gave it to us. We have no right to kill it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Barrister Mbesia.
Well, I don't know what to say again if the first two speakers have said almost everything. But I want to remind ourselves that we are in a modern warfare. In modern warfare, communication, in fact, is 60% of the battle. And this communication will not work, especially in this modern world, without the money. We're sitting here talking. People are listening to us. But this is not free. We pay for the satellite. We pay for the communications. And so everybody should be on board. But to add more to what Barrister says, we know the people who have taken the burden of this thing. We urge and pray on them to continue the effort without looking back. Let us fight and fight. Because the president says, and he's right, a revolution is not the question of the majority. It is a question of the devoted minority. We know that all the 10 million, 8 million Ambazonians cannot be on board. But the majority of the few devoted should do something. And the super minority of those who carry the burden day and night should be praised. And we pray that God should give you a long life. We must bring in our widow's mite. We must bring in all what can make it work. And if it doesn't work today, that should not discourage us. We should continue the effort because modern warfare without communication in the modern sense is not a war. We're talking to people in Brazil. We're urging that this thing should go to people in France. Only this communication will carry it there. I just suggested that we can translate Jolly Tumbe's text into French and so on. It's going to cost money. It's not going to be done like that. So I share in the views of the first two speakers that let us go in, all of us, contribute our widow's mite for today. Another will continue to contribute tomorrow until we get to the end of the journey. Over to you.
You just said something that I would say, I just want to thank you for that whole idea. And that will give an extra burden for ABC to take the opportunity to make sure that all of these different videos, like the one of Molanjo Litumbe, all of these extra, and we will not just be translating them into French, Portuguese, and Espanol because we want to just translate them. Like to make you know that it is the president's idea and vision. In fact, the government is wanting ABC to go full-scale French channel, full-scale Portuguese and Espanol. And all of that will require money. When we bring Michel Bienton and the guy you saw that you saw the way he was interpreting the president today, these are professional interpreters. We already have journalists in French, in Spanish, and in Portuguese on a standby to begin the different news and production. And details of this will not be given, but we will soon. We're not just because we're currently streaming now on Android. We hope that the iOS app can go functional any moment from now. But I just would like you people to know that we are currently streaming on Android. As we speak, we're streaming on Android. We are streaming via our website on satellite in sub-Saharan Africa. But the good news is recently we've made arrangements, though we've not established the arrangements, to be able to stream in the entire South America and Europe with a very affordable price. We are going on DSTV and even Canal Plus Horizon. The arrangements have been made just on the standby for actualization. And there's the sweetest part of it, which I'm not going to say yet now until the day we're announcing it. But ABC is just getting better and stronger. I want to take the opportunity to appreciate everyone that has participated, even those who are watching us via social media, our social media platforms. You're taking the commitment to share the links and to do whatever you have to do. I must applaud you for that. So we're going to get into something now. I want to be sure that the studio can hear me. If they can hear me, they should do that with a nod on the head. I'm trying to watch the ladies on the screen. If Onye can hear me, I would like that to be made known. I want us to process the reports on the ground, how the media has been acting lately. We have seen the media in Cameroon bullying people. We've all seen that. They're actually bullying people not to talk on anything. So please, I just want to be sure that Studio 2 is connected before I bring them here. Can you guys, I need to be sure on that. Can you guys hear me? Let me double check that so that I can get them on our platform. If you guys are sure of that and your connection is there, please let me know. Send me a signal for that. Studio 2, are you connected, please? Onye, can you hear me? Onye, can you hear me? Okay, it's unfortunate. We're still trying to establish the communication with them. We've been working like 12 hours before the press conference trying to do all of this. So they've all been busy with us doing this. But then let's talk about what is happening. For close to 40 days, this is not the first time it's happening. The times that Bia has been in Communicado for more than this. But the Cameroonian public, or the public in the Cameroons, has shown great interest in this absence. The media has reacted. We've had misinformation, disinformation, counter information, rejoinders, bullying. Yet on the media, we've had rumors. I wouldn't think it is responsible journalism to categorically state and then look for a way to justify that Bia is dead. Any responsible journalist or platform will say allegedly or rumors has it that Bia is finally no more. But there are those who went out and categorically said he was dead. So Yaoundé reacted by threatening the press, bullying them. Atanganji has officially sent a communique from his department to bully. This is strange. It's a very strange behavior. And I feel that we should talk about it. The first aspect of it that we should talk about before we get on that to find out what their report is saying is this audacity for a minister to bully the press, revealing the Franco or the French attitude in Africa. How the kind of culture that they have for you to bully the press, it doesn't happen in any civilized country. Even if the information is not correct, you can file in for lawsuits. But the bullying only tells us what they do to journalists. So, Dr. Fred, please talk to us.
It's not strange. You mentioned one of those who put out a statement. That is my classmate. We went to secondary school together when Bia was still Secretary General of the Republic, and then mutated into what is called Prime Minister before we separated and went separate ways. And he has never changed. He's the same. You can tell from very early on who people are going to be. So it's not strange to see what Tanganji is doing there. But let me come back to the issue here. Remember, we keep mentioning that I keep bringing up the issue of the French. One thing we know is that everybody's going to die. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how much supernatural witchcraft power you believe you have. Everybody is going to die. We know about not only the pharaohs, the Nebuchadnezzar and the Caesars, Mobutu, Abacha, Bokassa, Idi Amin. You can keep naming them. Even in our own Cameroon, Frundi is dead. My own phone died. Bobo Joya died. They're all going. Bukete is gone. So Bia is going to die. It doesn't matter how much you try to hide it. You can never hide it forever. But the situation is this: the French that control Francophone Africa have always controlled information when their puppets, the people that they put in place to rule those countries, people that look like us, they look like indigents, control the information and managed it until they had secured a transition that guaranteed French control before they allowed the information to come in. So what happened in Ivory Coast in the early 1990s, around 1993, when Houphouët Boigny, the first president of Ivory Coast, died, the French held the information for 7 full months. And when they had guaranteed a transition that ensured that France continued to exploit Ivory Coast, announced to the public that Ivory Coast was dead, but he had died 7 months before. When Eyadema of Togo died, they did the same for 5 full months, making sure that they brought his son to, after he had signed agreements to maintain French control over Togo. 5 months. When when Omar Bongo of Gabon died, the French again held the information for 3 full months. You see that the duration of holding the information keeps getting shorter and shorter, from 7 months to 5 months to 3 months. We're now in the era of social media. So what I'm trying to say is that the French are in the background like a ghost that controls everything. So they're the people truly controlling everything with this information. Whether Bia is dead or alive is really not that very important to us in this sense. As long as the French control the situation, our situation on the ground has not changed. The French can change the name from Bia to whoever, but as long as they have control, remember that the ambassador of France in Yaoundé is a military general. The French, with their military support, will keep indoctrinating the Francophone military to be killing our people. And the French can use anybody. That is why when they saw the changes occurring in the Sahel, they hurriedly went to, first of all, Chad and faked a military uprising because Idriss Deby was objecting renewing the French franc. They faked a military uprising and then killed Idriss Deby on the field, brought somebody that was raised in Idriss Deby's house called Deby, put him in place. Macron went and honored him as a military guy and acknowledged him while condemning other military governments, as long as he had agreements with the French to maintain the French. Then they went to Gabon, and even though in Gabon they had allowed Omar Bongo's son to take over, they also faked a coup and took a cousin of the Bongo family and pretended that a coup happened as long as the French remain in control. What I'm trying to say is that they can remove the person Bia. They can even not put his son there. As long as the French have a puppet that they can use and they still control, we will still be having the same fight. So the Bia's death or being in a coma is non-essential to us. And it is not surprising if the information is being manipulated. All those ministers are acting on instructions and out of fear from the French. Remember, there was a letter that leaked out. A former minister of finance, whatever his name was, he wrote a letter thanking the French president for appointing him Minister of Finance in La République du Cameroun. What that is saying is that all those ministers signed agreement with the French to take office. The ministers are serving at the pleasure of the French, though people think that they have been appointed by Bia or whoever the puppet is. And so these people are just frantic and worried because if the information comes out too soon before things are taken in control, there may be an uprising and they will lose their position. And so somebody like Atanyanji, who was the most radical of all the other ministers, can you imagine everybody became a government spokesperson? The spokesperson here, the director of the civil cabinet, another one who is social minister, they all came out saying things. And then Atanyanji came his own, as usual, bully and was bullying. And I've heard a Betty from where he is married. You know, he's married to a Betty Bulu, right? So they said that Atanganji instigated a war in his homeland of the northwest region where people are being killed and genocide is happening to come and marry one of their daughters to hide in their region, and they will not allow that they will get rid of him. So concerning people like Atanganji, let us not worry about him. Let's let his in-laws handle him. Our concern is whether Biya is dead or not, we have to see the hand of the French. And they are the ones manipulating the information to prepare the grounds. And after they have had agreements, even Diongute left. They took him, they sneaked him out to Europe to go and talk in Elysee, claiming that he was going to Germany, just to prepare the grounds. And when everything would have been ready, they will come and announce that he is dead. So it doesn't matter whether Biya is dead or alive. That's my opinion on that.
I would like Studio 2 to be focused. If you guys can hear me, you need to be focused to give the sound to those. Onye, can you hear me now?
Yes, Mr. Ta.
Okay.
I can hear you, Mr. Ta.
What is happening with the media in Yaoundé before we move on with this analysis? Talk to us, please. What's happening with the Biya shenanigans?
Okay. So throughout this week, we can say that, the whole world, not just Africa, this week found Cameroonians looking all around for their president everywhere. And while searching, all they could find were threats instead of answers. Threats from the Minister of Interior, Tanganji, Laurent Esso, Gregory Awona. These men banned and bullied any form of talk, discussion about their missing president. And so, instead of finding answers, Cameroonians found threats instead. But then, the ban on TV and radio debate about President Biya's health, along with monitoring of social media comments, has sparked outrage among Cameroonians. It's understandable that citizens are concerned about their president's well-being, especially given their country's ongoing challenges, including the war in southern Cameroon. We can go ahead to say this Paul Biya's regime recent ban on debates and commentaries about the president's health is a grave reminder of the country's stifling of free speech and democratic principles. And they are doing this by attempting to control the narrative surrounding Biya's well-being. The government is essentially clutching its straws to maintain a fragile grip on power. This desperate move is a classic symptom of a collapsing regime where leaders prioritize maintaining an illusion of control over addressing the genuine concerns of their citizens. The Cameroonian people have every right to be worried about their president's health, especially given his advanced age and prolonged absence. So the government's heavy-handed response only fuels speculation and anxiety, which highlights the regime's growing barbarism and disregard for human rights. It's astonishing that instead of addressing the people's concern directly, Biya's ministers are busy churning out letters insisting that their leader is alive and healthy. To prove it. Oh well. So we want to ask, are they aware of the consequences of silencing dissent? Maybe they are not, so let's talk about it. Erosion of trust. By suppressing free speech, the government has undermined its own legitimacy and credibility. How about increased unrest? By silencing dissent, it can lead to widespread frustration, potentially sparking social unrest and instability. Should we talk about democracy? These actions undermine the fundamental principle of democracy where citizens have the right to express themselves and hold leaders accountable. We would think that it is high time for Paul Biya to address his people directly, rather than relying on propaganda and censorship. What this means is that the Cameroonian people deserve transparency, accountability, and genuine leadership, not a regime that prioritizes maintaining power over serving the nation's interest. Mr. Cha, we're talking about freedom of speech in all angles being restricted. What would you have to say?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the analysis you have made there. We understand that, first of all, Laurent Esso and Tanganji, and I think the higher education minister have been depressed. We've seen them outrightly threatening the media. It's not the first of its kind. I thought those specific instances should have been mentioned before your analysis, but I would appreciate you for what you would have mentioned there. So I'm getting out to you, Barrister Fu. You have gotten some details as to what is happening on the ground. I know you are also following the media. Talk to us.
Thank you, Paddy. Before I say what I want to say, I want to thank Dr. Lubati for that succinct analysis. Bia's death doesn't concern us. We don't care. But strategically, we need to know whether he's dead or alive. And so far, nobody can confirm whether he's dead or he's alive. Even his whereabouts, nobody knows. I want to say that the people, the government in Yaoundé is panicking. Because in normal circumstances, a communique from the Minister of Communication, government spokesperson, one communique would have been enough. If you look at all the communiques, one was issued by Famin Dongo, who is the secretary to the Politburo of the CPDM, and also Minister of Higher Education. The other one is from Gregoire Awana, who has kept his boss, Jean Kwete, who is the Secretary General of the CPDM. He is the Assistant Secretary, Gregoire Awana is the Assistant Secretary General of the CPDM. Is it Jean Kwete who authorized him to issue a communique? I don't care. Number two, Ayolo Mvondo is the Director of Civil Cabinet. Who is the Director of Civil Cabinet? The guy who takes care of the president's house, buys president's food, makes sure the president's compound is clean, make sure this. Who is he to issue a statement after, or before or after the government spokesman as to what is happening to the president of the republic? And last but not the least, the bandit who was stolen from the prison, from the New Bay prison in Douala, and made a minister. They thought that the only Anglophone capable of being one of their ministers was a bandit who was serving 8 years in prison in Douala for having stolen money from LCB Credit Lyonnais with 3 others. One of them being a banker, and the other 3 are his partners in crime, fair men who landed from France. Tanganji has not been released from the New Bay prison. As a lawyer, I'm talking like a lawyer who practices in Douala. And I know that when they release you, they issue what they call Bulletin de Croix. That Bulletin de Croix would allow you to reconstitute your documents to become a civilian once more. He was never issued that. Foshive came and took him, put him in his hit squad, and they went around killing Reverend Fathers, killing people around the country in that squad. And he did so well that he was admired by the regime, and the rest is history. He became minister here, minister there, and now Minister of Territorial Administration, and thinks he can threaten everybody. Look, Atanganji has shot himself with his own gun, because if Francophones are now against Atanganji, where will he run to? He cannot come to Ambazonia. He's not an Ambazonia as far as I know. I don't care. His actions don't make him an Ambazonia. He's a thief, a highway robber. I said so in on the network in Douala. I'm saying so now because I have his file in my office. My partner was the defense counsel, one of the defense counsels that did the case for them in New Bell before he was sentenced to New Bell. So I am talking with pride. Let him try. I will bring out the file and let Laurent Eso contradict me. Being the Minister of Justice, he allowed that to happen. A prisoner is working and is now a minister and he can afford to threaten other Cameroonians. I don't care whether he threatens as long as he's not threatening Ambazonians. He has already killed how many of our people? A lot of our people have died because of Atanganji. He connived to kiss Florence Ayafo. We know that. We know that he's a killer. And we know that he has no place in Ambazonia. And if Francophones want his head, where will he run to? Other than enter the forest and find himself somewhere, whether in the Congo or wherever.